So good afternoon everybody. Welcome to the weekly current affairs class. Please confirm if the audio is clear. सभी लोगों को आवाज आ रही है? ऑडियो में कोई इशू तो नहीं है ना? हाँ जी, ऑडियो वीडियो क्लियर, ठीक है. स्क्रीन नॉट विजिबल. स्क्रीन तो विजिबल है, बाकी लोगों को तो विजिबल है स्क्रीन. हाँ जी. आर द रेस्ट ऑफ यू एबल टू व्यू द स्क्रीन प्रॉपरली? ठीक है, ठीक है, ग्रेट ग्रेट. चलिए, तो जो पहला टॉपिक आज डिस्कस कर रहे हैं दैट इज योर होप मिशन फ्रॉम of the United Arab Emirates, Hope mission, which was sent to the red planet, that is Mars. Sir? Mamta, the screen is full sized only. बाकी सब लोगों को फुल स्क्रीन दिख रहा है ना? कोई इश्यू तो नहीं है ना उसमें? Just give me 1 minute. I'll get that screen also fixed. जो स्क्रीन का आप लोग कह रहे हो ना, 1 मिनट उसके लिए प्लीज वेट करो. I'll get it done. चलो ठीक है, ठीक है रक्षंदा, इट्स फाइन. तो फिर ठीक है, स्टार्ट करते हैं विदाउट वेस्टिंग एनी फर्दर टाइम. चलो, तो जो ये मार्स मिशन है दैट इज बाय द नेम ऑफ होप, सेंट बाय द यूनाइटेड अरब एमिरेट्स. ठीक है, इसके बारे में आज पहले डिस्कस कर रहे हैं इन योर टेक साइंस एंड टेक पार्ट. सो जो होप मिशन है इट वाज डेवलप्ड बाय the UAE scientists in US. US played an instrumental role in helping the UAE to design this particular mission. जो UAE के scientists से they particularly took the assistance of the United States in developing this mission and they developed it. It was launched last year in the month of July 2020. That is a span of 7 to 8 months was required for it to traverse the path and reach the red planet. ठीक है, जो समय लगा इसको 7 से 8 महीने का. जुलाई में हमने इसको लॉन्च किया था. जस्ट वेट फॉर अ कपल ऑफ सेकेंड्स. स्क्रीन एक बार एडजस्ट कर लेते हैं, ठीक है? जस्ट वेट. हाँ जी, ਹੁਣ ਸਕਰੀਨ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੱਡੀ ਦਿਸ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ? is the screen now viewable? Hina, second line is that the mission, hope mission was, ठीक है, it's okay now. Great, great. ठीक है, thank you. चलिए, तो जो बात कर रहे हैं, देखो होप मिशन की बात कर रहे हैं, विच वॉज डेवलप्ड बाय द यूएई साइंटिस्ट इन यूएसए. दे टुक द असिस्टेंस फ्रॉम यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स. दिस मिशन वॉज लॉन्च्ड बाय द यूएई इन जुलाई 2020 इसको लॉन्च किया था, एंड द लॉन्च व्हीकल विच वाज यूज्ड, दैट इज द मित्सुबिशी इंडस्ट्रीज। मित्सुबिशी हैवी इंडस्ट्रीज ने डेवलप किया है आपका एक रॉकेट, उसके ऊपर ऑन बोर्ड दिस होप मिशन वाज सेंट, दैट इज H2A रॉकेट। ओके, and the launch place for this particular mission, it was launched from Japan. Mitsubishi Industries developed the H2A rocket on which this particular mission to the Mars was launched, and it was launched from the Tanegashima Space Center। ठीक है, जापान में तानगेशिमा स्पेस सेंटर से इसको लॉन्च किया यूएई ने। ठीक है, ये कॉन्टेक्स्ट है इसका, और ये जो फैक्चुअल इनिशियल डिटेल्स हैं, दिस इज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू योर होप मिशन ऑफ द यूएई। देखो, मार्स के रिस्पेक्ट में देयर इज अ फ्लोटिला ऑफ मिशंस व्हिच वी आर सीइंग, तो इसलिए इट बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रॉम योर एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू टू डिस्कस। अभी रिसेंटली कल ही जो है हमने एक और मिशन देखा है बाय द नासा व्हिच हैज लैंडेड ऑन द रेड प्लैनेट, दैट इज द परसिवरेंस rover by NASA. Fine. So there is a flotilla of missions being sent to Mars. So first, in today's class, we'll take a look at this HOPE mission only. Chaliye. So moving on to the further details with respect to this mission. So HOPE जो है आपका, or the HOPE probe mission, it has three main instruments which it is carrying. It is an orbital mission. It will orbit the Mars, and it is carrying three main instruments along with it. Yes, Rakshanda, the Perseverance rover by the NASA. तो इसमें जो तीन इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं, दैट इज फर्स्ट इज द EXI और द एक्सप्लोरेशन इमेजर, द एमिरेट्स एक्सप्लोरेशन इमेजर, जो एक हाई रेजोल्यूशन कैमरा है फॉर getting HD pictures of the Martian surface, which is on board this HOPE mission। ठीक है, जो पहला the first instrument which is on board is the EXI, which is a high resolution camera। Just to say it in simple terms, fine, the other two main instruments which this HOPE is carrying, it is the EMIRS, or you can say the Emirates infrared spectrometer। ये पर्टिकुलरली एमिर्स जो है यहां पे एक स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर है, दैट इज द एमिरेट्स मार्स इंफ्रारेड स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर। ये यहां पे एम मार्स है। दो पर्टिकुलर अलग अलग वेवलेंथ्स को कैप्चर यहां पे ये करेगा, दैट इज द इंफ्रारेड वेवलेंथ विच विल बी कैप्चर्ड बाय एमिर्स, एंड फॉर द यूवी or the ultraviolet waves, it carries the ultraviolet spectrometer, that is your Emirates UV or the ultraviolet spectrometer। अब जो ये दो अलग अलग स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर्स हैं, इनकी अलग अलग जो है यूजेज है, दैट इज दे विल स्टडी द मार्शियन सरफेस, दे विल डिटेक्ट दीज डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ वेवलेंथ्स। ठीक है, जो मार्स पे आपके लोअर एटमॉस्फेयर है, लोअर एटमॉस्फेयर की स्टडी करेगा एमिर, दिस इट विल स्टडी द लोअर एटमॉस्फेयर ऑफ मार्स। फाइन। देखो ये पर्टिकुलर मिशन जो है यूएई ने क्या कहा है, यूरोपियन यूएई स्पेस एजेंसी हैज सेड दैट दिस पर्टिकुलर मिशन ऑफ the hope mission, it will study in totality the dynamics with respect to the climate on Mars, the atmosphere and the evolution of their climate. This is what this mission intends to. So for that it carries two of these most important spectrometers on board it, that is the infrared spectrometer जो lower atmosphere को study करेगा, and the EMIS or the ultraviolet spectrometer, it will detect the presence of CO, that is carbon monoxide, and oxygen. ठीक है, CO के साथ साथ ऑक्सीजन की भी प्रेजेंस को ये डिटेक्ट करेगा in the atmosphere of Mars. This is the use which your ultraviolet spectrometer will serve. ठीक है, अलग अलग इनकी जो हमने यूजेज देख ली यहां पे. सो दीज आर द थ्री मेन इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स विच आर ऑन बोर्ड द होप मिशन. ठीक है, यहां तक क्लियर सभी लोगों को? एक तो ये ऑर्बिटल मिशन है, ये क्लियर हो गया आप लोगों को कि ये रोवर नहीं है. ऑर्बिटल मिशन का मतलब है कि ये लैंडिंग से इसका कोई रिलेशन नहीं है. इट विल नॉट लैंड, इट विल जस्ट रिवॉल्व अराउंड द रेड प्लैनेट और यू कैन से द मार्स. ठीक है, and it will not land like the rover sent by NASA, that is the Perseverance rover which has just landed there. This particular mission, it will just orbit around the red planet, and from there these instruments, they will try to study it, and they will give a complete picture with respect to the Martian climate dynamics. तो जो ये मिशन है जिसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं, आई होप वो सब लोगों ने पिछली स्लाइड भी नोट कर ली थी. तो जो होप मिशन है, इट विल प्रोवाइड द फर्स्ट एवर कंप्लीट पिक्चर in detail. It will study of the Martian climate, or you can say the climate which is present there on Mars. See, Ria, rover mission जो है, rover is nothing but a kind of instrument which lands on the surface and then it roves there or it traverses on the surface of the planet. ठीक है, वो नासा का मिशन है, that is Perseverance. जो ये होप मिशन यूए के जिसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं, ये ऑर्बिटल मिशन है. ये सिर्फ जो है रिवॉल्व करेगा अराउंड द मार्स एंड इट विल कैप्चर ऑल दीज थिंग्स फ्रॉम देयर ओनली. फाइन. प्लीज, it is a request that please note it along with me only these slides. ठीक है, it will be beneficial for you only. ये जिसका अगर कुछ मिस हो गया था तो फटाफट देख लो, then we will move further. ये पहला ऐसा मिशन है जो मार्स के सरफेस और क्लाइमेट डायनेमिक्स को स्टडी करेगा, उसके एटमॉस्फेयर को स्टडी करेगा. ओके, डन, ग्रेट. सो वी वर डिस्कसिंग दैट दिस होप मिशन it will give a complete first ever picture of the Martian surface, the Martian climate, जो हमने देखा कि स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर्स के थ्रू जो ये स्टडी करेगा. ठीक है, ऑल्सो इट विल कलेक्ट डेटा ऑन दी क्लाइमेट डायनेमिक्स एंड दी मार्स एटमोस्फेयर. द प्रोजेक्ट इज, इस प्रोजेक्ट में जो एक और बात है, दैट इज टू कलेक्ट डेटा विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द एटमोस्फेयर ऑफ मार्स. जो हमने देखा स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर्स के थ्रू ये स्टडी करेगा। See, what UAE has said that it will collect data for the atmosphere, for the climate dynamics, for the red planet, and apart from that, this mission, it is, as we have discussed, it is an orbital mission. Also, this is the fourth mission from the UAE. ठीक है, this is the fourth mission, but द होप मिशन इज द फर्स्ट इंटरप्लैनेटरी। अगर इंटरप्लैनेटरी मिशन की बात करें तो ये पहला मिशन है यूएई का, लेकिन अदरवाइज स्पेस मिशन की बात करें तो दिस इज द फोर्थ मिशन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू योर स्पेस मिशंस बाय यूएई। बट दिस इज द फर्स्ट इंटरप्लैनेटरी मिशन। तो यूएई ने इससे पहले जो है 4 स्पेस मिशन जो भेजे हैं, लेकिन दिस नाउ इज द फर्स्ट इंटरप्लैनेटरी मिशन विच इज द होप मिशन बाय द यूएई। जो इससे पहले के 3 मिशन थे दे वर जस्ट अर्थ ऑब्जर्वेशन सैटेलाइट्स। जो हम ये 4 मिशन की बात कर रहे हैं, द प्रीवियस 3 वर the previous 3 missions they were earth observation satellites, fine। इसीलिए मैं कह रहा हूं कि जो इंटरप्लैनेटरी मिशन की बात है तो दिस इज द फर्स्ट इंटरप्लैनेटरी मिशन, अर्थ ऑब्जर्वेशन सैटेलाइट्स। difference between space and interplanetary, see नेहा, when we are saying that आप सैटेलाइट भेज रहे हो जो अर्थ को ही ऑब्जर्व करेगी, दैट इज जस्ट कन्फाइंड टू आवर ओन प्लैनेट। But when we are sending a satellite to another planet, which in this case is Mars or the red planet, then it is an interplanetary mission. Very simple as that, fine। Okay, I hope that is clear। So ये पहला interplanetary mission है यूएई का जो इन्होंने मार्स पे भेजा है। इसके अलावा जो है देखो, अब ये पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम जो है दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट। ये आप लोगों ने अगर नोट कर लिया है तो ग्रेट, नहीं तो स्नैपशॉट ले लो। आई एम टर्निंग द स्लाइड। फोर्थ मिशन, ये 4 स्पेस मिशन जो हैं ये इसको इंक्लूड करके ही हैं। इससे पहले के 3 जो थे वो अर्थ ऑब्जर्वेशन सैटेलाइट्स ही थे। होप मिशन इज द फोर्थ मिशन, फाइन। ये स्पेस मिशन की बात की ना, देखो यहां पे, तो चौथा स्पेस मिशन इनका होप ही है विच इज इंटरप्लैनेटरी, दैट इज द होप मिशन विच हैज मार्स एज द डेस्टिनेशन। जपजीत, लैंड एंड रोवर सिस्टम्स में डिफरेंस ये है, देखो लैंड अगर सिर्फ करके वहीं पे इट इज नॉट ट्रैवर्सिंग और इट इज नॉट मूविंग ऑन द सरफेस, देन वी से दैट इट इज नॉट अ रोवर। When you say that it is a rover mission, then the satellite, its systems will land on the surface of the planet and they will move there, fine। They will move and they will collect certain samples of the surface of that from the surface of that planet, जिसको हम कहते हैं एक वो रोवर मिशन है, फाइन। चलिए ठीक है। सो द इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग इज दैट जो देखो रेवोल्यूशन है ऑफ अर्थ एंड मार्स, both of these planets they are in constant motion, that is they are revolving, ठीक है। तो when they are revolving, then at a certain point of time they are in proximity to each other or they are close to each other, क्योंकि इनकी जो relative position है, because of this revolution their relative position keeps changing। और क्योंकि इनकी रिलेटिव पोजीशन चेंज होती रहेगी तो किसी पॉइंट पे ये दूर होंगे एक दूसरे से, दैट इज द प्लैनेट, आवर प्लैनेट अर्थ एंड मार्स। and at one point of time they will come closer to each other, that is their relative position will come closer. So they are at their closest distance, Earth and Mars, they are at their closest distance in a span of, you can say, roughly 2 years. रेवोल्यूशन रिवॉल्व करते करते जो है, जो हमारे ये प्लैनेट्स हैं, दैट इज आर प्लैनेट अर्थ एंड द प्लैनेट मार्स, दे आर एट देयर क्लोजेस्ट डिस्टेंस every 26 months. And this 26 months window, it was this window, you can say, it was available in July 2020. इसीलिए हमने देखा कि यूएस ने भी along with UAE and China has launched their Mars missions. फाइन, ये चीज जो है यहां पे समझो कि 26 महीने, दैट इज रफली एवरी 2 years, आर प्लैनेट्स व्हाइल रिवॉल्विंग दे कम क्लोजर टू ईच अदर, और उस वक्त डिस्टेंस जो है वो सबसे मिनिमम होता है. सो इट मींस दैट इट इज द बेस्ट टाइम टू सेंड अ मिशन टू मार्स. ठीक है, देखो इससे होगा क्या, दैट सिंस द डिस्टेंस विल बी लेस और द क्लोजेस्ट, सो द फ्यूल रिक्वायरमेंट इज लोअर. अब देखो यहां पे गैलन्स ऑफ फ्यूल इज रिक्वायर्ड, सो दैट इज व्हाई इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू टेक इनटू कंसिडरेशन दैट इफ द planets are closest to each other, then it is the most suitable time for a country or a space agency to launch a mission so as to have minimum or as less cost as it is possible. ठीक है, यस रिया, एग्जैक्टली जो हमारा ये चंद्रयान वाला मिशन फेल हुआ था, इट वाज अ रोवर मिशन विच इन इट्स लास्ट स्टेजेस व्हेन द रोवर वाज, इट वाज descending down the surface on the moon, it was trying to land, it crash landed and the mission unfortunately was aborted there. ठीक है, चलिए coming back to this, is it clear to everybody? Approximately, you can say for a couple of months it remains in vicinity before they again start to part ways. ठीक है, उसके बाद they again this distance starts increasing. So that is the window which is available for approximately a month or so. Fine. So that is why it is important that you have seen that in this month, in this particular month only, it is not just UAE but also the USA's NASA and China also, they have launched their different missions to Mars. Fine. So that is the particular thing here. चाइना का तियानवन था और नासा का परसिवरेंस था, दैट इज दी तियानवन फ्रॉम चाइना, और नासा का हमने देखा था, हमने बात की थी, दैट इज दी परसिवरेंस मार्स मिशन. फाइन, यस एग्जैक्टली, तियानवन जो चाइना ने भेजा है, तियानवन 1, ये भी जो है एक रोवर ही है, तियानवन 1 टू बी प्रिसाइज. And Perseverance rover from NASA, which has successfully made its landfall or which has successfully landed yesterday on the surface of Mars. ठीक है, और जो आपका चाइना वाला ये तियानवन 1 रोवर है, इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू लैंड समवेयर इन May 2021. ओके, दिस Tianwen, it is expected to land, or you can say expected landing इसकी जो है, that is in the month of May 2021, और ये जो है it has already landed. which is a great achievement, landed on 19th, I suppose. ये कल ही लैंड हुआ है 19 फरवरी मॉर्निंग। अगर हम इंडियन टाइम की बात करें तो इन दी अर्ली आवर्स ऑफ आर लोकल टाइम इट लैंडेड ऑन दी सरफेस ऑफ मार्स। फाइन, विच इज अ ग्रेट अचीवमेंट सर्टेनली। हाँ जी, अब इसमें तो यहां तक कोई डाउट नहीं है। इट इज, आई होप दिस इज क्लियर। दिस इज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द होप मिशन। ओके ग्रेट, चलिए ठीक है। तो नाउ विल मूव टू द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक। आज हम क्या करेंगे, while discussing these topics also, at the end we will take into case a successful model implemented by the state of Tamil Nadu, that is the Tamil Nadu road safety for citizens model, which is being discussed, and we will take up that case study also। ठीक है, चलिए। लैंडिंग टाइम योगिता लैंड, ये 19 फरवरी अर्ली मॉर्निंग इट हैज लैंडेड। जो पर्सिवरेंस मिशन है इट हैज ऑलरेडी लैंडेड। चलिए, सो मूविंग ऑन टू द सेकेंड टॉपिक, दैट इज with respect to the privatization of banks। or you can say the privatization of public sector banks, which are also called as PSBs। now with respect to your new policy for public sector enterprises also, this is being discussed। आयुष, होप जो है वो लैंड नहीं करेगा, वो सिर्फ इट विल रिवॉल्व, इट विल ऑर्बिट अराउंड the Mars or the red planet। it does not have any landing module associated with it। it does not have a lander or a rover। ठीक है, चलिए। तो प्राइवेटाइजेशन जो है इसका कंटेक्स्ट यही है कि द गवर्नमेंट हैज डिसाइडेड it was announced in the budget also that at least 4 public sector banks will be privatized, but out of these 4 what the government has now said, जो फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री की तरफ से अब बात निकल के आई है कि अभी 4 की जगह इनिशियली 2 public sector banks in plus your IDBI, they will be privatized first, and depending upon the success। अब ऐसा नहीं है ना कि सरकार अगर एकदम से सभी बैंक्स को या 4 के 4 बैंक्स जो वो इंटेंड करते हैं प्राइवेटाइज करने के लिए उनको प्राइवेटाइज कर दें, लेकिन वो बैकफायर कर जाए या वो सक्सेसफुल ना हो पाए, तो देन इट विल बी अ वेरी बिग मिस्टेक और इट विल बी अ ब्लंडर। so what that is why what the finance minister initially said in the budget speech, that they are going to privatize 4 public sector banks। now they have said that with respect to this particular financial year, that is 2021-2022, starting from the April 1st 2021, in this financial year they will first go in for privatizing 2 public sector banks and IDBI, and with when they will look at how successful this particular step of privatization is, and only then they will move forward for privatizing the 2 more or the remaining banks। ठीक है, तो दिस इज द कॉन्टेक्स्ट एंड इट इज अ की चेंज। ये की चेंज क्यों है? दिस प्राइवेटाइजेशन दैट इज आफ्टर द nationalization was done in the year 1969, that is almost you can say after 51 years of nationalization, after 51 years of nationalization of banks, in the year 1969, now this is a step in the opposite direction। Yes, exactly. It was Indira Gandhi who did the nationalization of the private banks, जिन्होंने 1969 में प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स को नेशनल बैंक्स में डिक्लेयर करके नेशनल बैंक नेशनल अमेंडमेंट्स करके लॉ में नेशनल बैंक बना दिया था. Yes, Shashank, until now IDBI has not been privatized. The government has said that they are going to privatize it, but until now this has not been not been done. Fine. So this is the context, and this is a sort of reversal, you can say, from what was done earlier by the previous governments के हम nationalization या public sector banks को बढ़ा रहे थे. अब जो है, this is a policy step in the reverse direction, you can say. That is, it will bring a key change in the banking landscape by increasing or giving more thrust to the private sector banking. Is the context clear to everybody? चलिए, so taking a look at the proposal now. जो proposal है और the what is this particular privatization proposal which has been floated by the government? They say that two public sector banks whose name have been withheld, two PSBs plus one इंश्योरेंस कंपनी, नाम अभी जो है वो डिस्क्लोज नहीं किए हैं. दैट इज still the names are undisclosed, that which are these two public sector banks which are going to be privatized. Although, yes, exactly, Ayush, you can say that to increase efficiency, to increase the operational effectiveness of these banks, the government is moving ahead with these particular privatization steps. तो यहां पे अभी तक डिक्लेयर हमने नहीं किया है कि कौन से बैंक्स को प्राइवेटाइज करेंगे, क्योंकि फाइनलाइज एक बार गवर्नमेंट कर लेगी प्रपोजल्स को, ओनली देन दे विल go ahead with announcing that which are these banks which are going to be privatized. So sources have said that although this is mere speculation, that Punjab National Bank and Bank of Baroda could be the candidates which will be privatized. Apart from this, जो ये एक जनरल इंश्योरेंस कंपनी और दो पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स के अलावा, what has been said in this proposal is that they have announced strategic disinvestment. What do we mean by strategic disinvestment? Please let me know in the comment section. इकोनॉमी मॉड्यूल सब लोगों ने अब तक कर लिया होगा, उसमें डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट्स की टाइप पढ़ी होंगी. स्ट्रेटेजिक डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट का क्या मतलब होता है? व्हाट डू वी मीन व्हेन वी से दैट वी आर गोइंग टू स्ट्रेटेजिकली डिसइन्वेस्ट? हाँ जी, प्लीज. नो, स्ट्रेटेजिक डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट अगर हम कह रहे हैं तो इसका मतलब है कि कितनी शेयर होल्डिंग जो है वो सरकार देने जा रही है प्राइवेट सेक्टर को. इज द गवर्नमेंट गोइंग टू एंटायरली विड्रॉ? Certainly, if we say that we are going for strategic disinvestment, that means that we are going to give away more than 50% of the shares. इसका मतलब कि मैनेजमेंट में आप प्राइवेट सेक्टर को रोप इन कर रहे हो. दैट इज, यू आर रोपिंग इन द प्राइवेट सेक्टर. So with respect to this strategic disinvestment, the government has announced that in the key or strategic areas of banking, of insurance, they are going to withdraw their role. That is, the government will withdraw itself from these sectors and it will let the private sectors take more of the lead. The banking sector, the insurance sector, and the financial services sector. इन की सेक्टर्स में से गवर्नमेंट हैज अनाउंस that it is going to strategically disinvest, that is they are going to give away more than 50% of the share. जो यहां पे इंटेंशन है, you can say that the government intends to, or what is the intention, that is bare minimum presence of the government. Fine, this is what the stated intention is from the government, that they are going to maintain bare minimum presence. इसको आप ये भी कह सकते हो that moving from government to governance, that is you are more focusing on the governance aspect and you are withdrawing your direct involvement. जो आपकी सीधे सीधे इन्वॉल्वमेंट है उसको आप थोड़ा सा खींच रहे हो पीछे, एंड यू आर लेटिंग द अदर प्लेयर्स इन द इकोनॉमी टू टेक अ लीड, and you will focus more on the governance aspect, or you can say that from government to governance. This is the stated intention is behind these particular moves. हाँ जी, ये clear हुआ? The proposals, what does the proposal say and what is the stated intention which the government has behind these this particular move? ठीक है, is it clear? यहां तक कोई डाउट है तो बताओ, otherwise we'll move forward and we'll discuss why is there a need to privatize, or what has led to this privatization. Government to governance, how? See, Nazia, the government will play an enabling role. सरकार अपनी हिस्सेदारी कम करके प्राइवेट सेक्टर को आने दे रही है, दैट इज द operations will be directly handed over to the private sector. Fine, लेकिन ओवरऑल रेगुलेशन जो है वो तो एम्बिट किसका है? सरकार का ही है ना. गवर्नेंस जो है वो ब्रॉडर फ्रेमवर्क जो डिसाइड करेगा, दैट इज द गवर्नमेंट ओनली. तो सरकार ये कह रही है कि हम डायरेक्टली बैंकिंग नहीं करेंगे, या हम डायरेक्टली इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर में डील नहीं करेंगे, या हम डायरेक्टली फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज सेक्टर में डील नहीं करेंगे. वी विल लेट द अदर प्लेयर्स डू दैट. Fine. What we will do is that we will provide that policy environment in which you are able to operate and grow and expand. When I'm saying that, governance will be given more priority by the government and they will withdraw themselves from being directly engaged, then it means that the government is saying it will provide an ambience or a policy environment which is conducive for the growth of these sectors, in which the private or the corporates, they will be given the front lead to handle the operations. ठीक है sir, isn't it drawback for any mediocre traders? Yes, Gopi, strategic disinvestment means that we are roping in the private sector for management role as well. ठीक है. Okay, fine, it is clear. Let's now move to the third aspect, that is the need of privatization. Also, we will take a look at what are the recommendations which have been made by various committees. But before we take a look at those recommendations, क्या ऐसी जरूरत है कि प्राइवेटाइजेशन अभी सरकार जो है वो कर रही है? सो डिस्पाइट ईयर्स ऑफ कैपिटल इंजेक्शंस, despite capital being injected into these banks for years, we have just seen slight improvement. बहुत ज्यादा इंप्रूवमेंट इनकी बैलेंस शीट्स में या इनकी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी में देखने को नहीं मिली है, डिस्पाइट ईयर्स ऑफ कैपिटल इंजेक्शंस एंड आल्सो गवर्नेंस रिफॉर्म्स. इन पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स. दो स्टेप्स देखो, दो पर्टिकुलर स्टेप्स के थ्रू सरकार ने कई सालों से ये ट्राई किया है कि पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स को हम और एफिशिएंट बना सकें, उनकी वर्किंग को और ज्यादा बेहतर बना सकें। दो फ्रंट्स पे कैसे कि एक तो पैसा प्रोवाइड करके, दैट इज बाय इंजेक्टिंग कैपिटल इन दीज बैंक्स, and at the same time also going in for pushing these banks to introduce measures which will improve on their governance aspect. दैट इज हमने देखा कि बैंक बोर्ड्स ब्यूरो बनाए गए, इनके चीफ्स को अपॉइंट करने के लिए पैनल्स को कंस्टिट्यूट किया गया ताकि इंटरफेरेंस बाय द एग्जीक्यूटिव इज लिमिटेड एंड दे कैन बी गिवन फंक्शनल ऑटोनॉमी. बट डिस्पाइट दोज steps on the infusion of liquidity and on the governance front also, no significant improvement was seen. देखो, अगर आप इस चीज को जस्टिफाई कर रहे हो, अगर मेंस में क्वेश्चन आता है दैट व्हाट इज द गवर्नमेंट इंटेंडिंग टू डू or intending to achieve by pushing for the privatization of existing public sector banks, elaborate, then you can comment all these points, you can directly put it there that despite all these steps by the government in the previous years, अगर हम डायरेक्टली बात करें तो 1.06 lakh crore was, if we talk about the capital which was infused, that was rupees 1.06 lakh crore which was done via recapitalization bonds. Alone in the financial year 2019, this much amount of money was injected in the public sector banks by the government through the recapitalization bonds. That is, you issued bonds and you garnered money which was to the tune of rupees 1 lakh crore and you gave them to the public sector banks. Despite this was just one example. इसके अलावा अगर सीधे सीधे फ्रंट लोडिंग की बात करें, the government it front loaded rupees 70,000 crore and rupees 80,000 crore in the year 2019 and in the year 2018. 2018 और 2019 में direct injections, not by issuing bonds but directly the government provided these banks in financial year 2018 and 19 with 70,000 crore rupees and with 80,000 crore rupees. आप कितना पब्लिक मनी जो है बैंक्स को देते रहोगे ताकि उनकी बैलेंस शीट्स जो हैं उनकी स्ट्रेस ना हो, वो एनपीएस में ना चले जाएं कंप्लीटली. लेकिन देयर हैज टू बी अ लिमिट, देयर हैज टू बी अ लाइन व्हिच हैज टू बी ड्रॉन दैट नाउ दिस इज द एंड. भैया अब लिमिट हो गई. इसके बाद, क्योंकि देखो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, ये जो पैसा बैंक्स को दिया जा रहा है यहाँ पे, इट इज टैक्स पेयर्स मनी ओनली. The government is not, giving money out of its own pocket. It is the taxpayers' money which is being collected through the revenue which the government generates. And if you give it to the banks only for their mere survivability, सिर्फ उनको सर्वाइव करवाने के लिए अगर वो पैसा हम सिर्फ बैंक्स को ही देते रहेंगे, so you are just diverting that money from all other developmental works. Am I right or not? There has to be a line drawn where you will say that this money is to be set aside for developmental works and you cannot go on to distributing these amounts of money to the banks themselves. हाँ जी, ये चीज समझ में आई ना? This is a very important point that is now has pushed the government to change its policy and not keep on capitalizing these banks. Also, इससे जो एक और अचीवमेंट the government apart from this, see, अगर गवर्नमेंट अपना शेयर जो है वो विड्रॉ करती है, it is allowing the private sector to come in, so it will also give the government more autonomy. That is, it will not have to engage its resources in कैपिटलाइजिंग दीज बैंक्स अगेन एंड अगेन, ये एक और फाइनेंशियल इकोनॉमी इससे सरकार को मिलेगी, ठीक है। हाँ जी, ये चीज क्लियर हुई? प्लीज मुझे एक बार कंफर्म करके बताओ। Also take the snapshot, then we will discuss the recommendations, that what are the different recommendations by various panels. Ria, they are stressed, certainly they are stressed, but they are not in that much loss that they cannot be revived. See, wherever the private sector will see that they have an opportunity to turn these banks into profit minting organizations, they will certainly have an interest in investing and earning profit through them. ठीक है, सरकारी बैंक्स की जो स्टैंडिंग है इन द इकोनॉमी, दैट इज सर्टेनली गुड, वी नो दैट. वी ऑल्सो हैव, most of us have our bank accounts in the government banks. Despite there being many private banks, most of Indians still prefer to go in and opt for a public sector bank. That is the credibility they have. And if this credibility is mixed, or if this credibility is it is dovetailed with the operational efficiency of the private sector, then you can have a win-win situation. Are you able to relate it? How financial autonomy? See, financial autonomy जो हम बात कर रहे थे, that was with respect to the government itself, that if the government will withdraw its shareholding or its ownership from the bank, then it will no longer be, what do you say, it will no longer be obligatory for the government to come to the rescue of these banks. Every time they say that we are stressed and we are going down the road in the non-performing assets, then the government, being the majority owner, has an obligation that they'll have to come to their rescue. But when the private sector will take over, then the government will not be obliged to come to their rescue. It will be the private sector only which will have to cater to the losses or to the profits, whatever be the will be the scenario. ठीक है, तो सरकार वहां से relatively they will have more financial autonomy, or you can say that they'll be freed from their obligation to engage their financial resources in infusing capital in these banks. Fine. Yes, it is like sharing of the burden, you can say, or you can say that since the responsibility of the ownership will be transferred from the government to the private sector will take care of those things and not the government. See, RIA e-Kuber system जो है, that e-Kuber is of the RBI. उस चीज की डिटेलिंग जो है दैट विल कम. अभी एक बार ये जो सारा प्रोसेस है वो कंप्लीट हो जाए. आई होप वो फाइनेंशियल ऑटोनॉमी वाला पॉइंट जो है वो क्लियर था ध्रुव. चलिए, सो मूविंग टू व्हाट वर द अर्लियर रिकमेंडेशंस एंड व्हाट इज द स्टांस नाउ. सो earlier recommendations of the panels which are relevant with respect to this topic. I have already cleared that doubt, that why will the private sector invest in such banks? Because the private sector will have an opportunity to invest some amount of money and turn these organizations or these banks into a golden egg laying goose. Fine, they will be able to garner profits, and that is why we are saying that they will be interested. Okay, so three committees outrightly have suggested such things, that many committees which have proposed, there are multiple committees which have proposed that the government should have less than 51% holding in the public sector banks. ठीक है, इसमें जो पहली कमेटी है, इट वाज द नरसिम्हम कमेटी, विच सजेस्टेड दैट The Narsimham committee suggested that the government should have only 33% holding in the public sector banks. Could you briefly tell the line? Okay, we will certainly take a look at that. This was the fourth line. 80,000 crore in 2019, which was injected, and 70,000 crore in 2018, which was directly given to these banks. Fine. One student said that their internet got stuck, so I just shifted the slide. Okay, I hope that is done. So the Narsimham committee suggested that the government should not have more than 33% holding in a public sector bank. मतलब ये कि पहले से ही इसका बैकड्रॉप देखो, जो काफी टाइम से डेवलपमेंट्स, ये ऐसा नहीं है कि ओवरनाइट दीज डेवलपमेंट्स हैव टेकन प्लेस. There have been committees which have suggesting such things. Another committee was the PJ Nayak committee. What did the PJ Nayak committee suggest? That the government should have a shareholding below 50%. मतलब इन्होंने भी यही कहा कि आप डायरेक्ट ओनरशिप अपने पास ना रखो, यू डोंट कीप द ओनरशिप डायरेक्टली विद यू. देखो, नरसिम्हम कमेटी, again the PJ Nayak committee, what did these committees suggest? Shareholding might be different here, but it certainly goes on to say or convey one message, that direct ownership of these public sector banks should not be kept with the government. And another committee, or the RBI's working group, इन दो कमिटीज के अलावा आरबीआई के एक वर्किंग ग्रुप ने भी एडवाइस किया था दैट in fact they went one step ahead, and this was recently in news also. The RBI's working group, it suggested that entry of corporate houses be allowed in the banking sector. The RBI working group, it went one step ahead, not just suggesting the privatization, but allowing the entry of corporate houses in the banking sector. कि जो बड़े इंडस्ट्रियल हाउसेज हैं, they should be allowed to own these banks. Fine, which certainly ran into controversy, and it was not further taken up, but that was a suggestion that these business houses or corporate houses, they be allowed in the banking sector. ठीक है, तो ये तीन मेजर recommendations हैं हमारे पास from the committees and the RBI working group that suggest that the government should withdraw its ownership from these banks. हाँ जी, इज इट क्लियर? ये सारी चीजों को मद्देनजर रखते हुए ये अब इस बजट में जो अनाउंसमेंट्स हैं जो हमें देखने को मिली हैं, दिस इज द पर्टिकुलर बैकड्रॉप इन विच दिस पर्टिकुलर अनाउंसमेंट हैज बीन मेड. ठीक है, अब इसके अलावा देखो, अपार्ट फ्रॉम ऑल दीज announcement, what the government or the agencies they fear is that post COVID relaxations, when these relaxations they are removed or lifted, जो अभी हमने देखा है कि एनपीए डिक्लेयर करने पे बहुत सारी अभी रिस्ट्रिक्शंस जो हैं वो चल रही हैं, लेकिन एक बार post COVID these relaxations when they will be lifted, that is the main fear that the RBI also has, that it has mentioned in its financial stability report also कि once these COVID restrictions they are lifted, then the NPAs might go up from 9.7% to 16%. This we had discussed also in one of our lectures. 9.7% say they might go up to 16.5%. This is what is the fear which the RBI has. The 9.7% figure is of September 2020. and this 16.5% is in September 2021. ठीक है कि एक बार कोविड की वजह से जो हमने अभी रिस्ट्रिक्शंस लगाई हैं एनपीए डिक्लेयर करने पे, एक बार वो अगर लिफ्ट करेंगे, then it will lead to higher NPAs and loan losses which these banks will report. And this is another fear which has, in conjunction with these earlier recommendations, now led to the change in stance by the finance ministry. ठीक है, I hope this is clear that what were the earlier recommendations and the current stance. करंट स्टांस का मतलब यही है कि इन रिकमेंडेशंस को ध्यान में रखते हुए और साथ ही साथ catering into the developments once these COVID restrictions are lifted, and the financial stability report by the RBI जो हमने डिस्कस की थी, the financial stability report of the Reserve Bank of India, which has predicted that these NPAs of the public sector banks, they might go up from 9.7% to as high as 16.4%, 16.5%. ठीक है, हाँ जी, is this clear that the what were the earlier recommendations and what has led to the change in stance now? Please note it down or take a snapshot. Before we conclude this topic, we will just take a look quickly at how is this process going to work. चलिए ठीक है, great. So the execution. So it is not that the government will just bring in an ordinance or a law and it will just go in for privatization. Before doing so, they will ask the Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog has been asked by the government to make certain recommendations. And these recommendations by the National Institution for Transforming India or the Niti Aayog, they will be made to a group of secretaries, or you can say the disinvestment department secretaries, that is the core group of secretaries in the disinvestment department. So the Niti Aayog will identify that which banks are the most suited for this privatization drive, and taking into consideration those factors, it will recommend these measures to the core group of secretaries in the disinvestment department of the government, and these secretaries, they will further submit their report to an alternative mechanism or a group of ministers. जिसको आप ऑल्टरनेटिव मैकेनिज्म भी कहते हो, और द ग्रुप ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स दे विल फाइनली टेक अ कॉल, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली इट इज गोइंग टू बी द पॉलिटिकल एग्जीक्यूटिव हु विल डिसाइड. फाइन, दीज आर जस्ट ब्यूरोक्रेट्स ओनली. Who will submit their recommendations to the group of ministers, or you can call it the alternate mechanism. इसको alternative mechanism भी कहते हैं. That is the group of ministers or your alternative mechanism, which is the final body which will decide on these measures which will be recommended starting from your Niti Aayog all the way up to the group of ministers. Apart from this, what the government will also need to do, that they will have to amend two particular legislations, that is banking companies also amend. देखो 1969 में जब बैंक्स को नेशनलाइज किया गया था तो इट वाज दीज पीसेस ऑफ लेजिस्लेशंस व्हिच वर एनेक्टेड द बैंकिंग कंपनीज एक्विजिशन एंड ट्रांसफर ऑफ अंडरटेकिंग्स, banking companies acquisition and transfer of ownership. Act 1970, ये 1970 and 1980 में this was by the same name, this was enacted in 1980 also. तो ये जो I'll repeat the execution part, I'll repeat that. देखो एग्जीक्यूशन में दो चीजें सरकार करेगी, आउटराइटली सिर्फ क्योंकि बोल दिया है तो एग्जीक्यूट डायरेक्टली नहीं करेंगे. दे विल फर्स्ट आस्क द नीति आयोग टू मेक सम recommendations. द नीति आयोग will identify that which are the best suited banks which need to be privatized, and they will make their suggestions to a core group of secretaries on disinvestment. You can write that here, on disinvestment. The core group of secretaries on disinvestment will receive these recommendations from the Niti Aayog, and then further, after they take into consideration the recommendations, they will further, with their addition, with their analyzing of the Niti Aayog's recommendations, they will further give their advice to the group of ministers, or you can say the alternative mechanism, या जिसको हम alternative mechanism भी कहते हैं गवर्नेंस में. These group of ministers or the alternative mechanism, they will be the final authority who will take a call on it. ठीक है, I hope that is clear. And apart from this, this is the policy making part, that is how this policy will be framed. Now, apart from this, the government will also need to amend two laws, which are the Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Ownership Act 1970 and 1980 by the same name, that is Acquisition and Transfer of Ownership Act 1970 and 1980. Same नाम से ये act एक और है, which was enacted in 1970. So they will have to amend certain provisions in these acts so as to relinquish their majority ownership and let the private sector take over. ठीक है, हाँ जी, ये चीज क्लियर हो गई आप लोगों को. This is with respect to the execution of the current proposal which we are discussing here. हाँ जी, इसमें कोई डाउट है तो मुझे प्लीज बता दो अब, और else we will move to another topic in your technology section, that is the square kilometer array और दी SKAO प्रोजेक्ट. हाँ जी, यहां तक चीजें क्रिस्टल क्लियर हैं सभी लोगों को? कोई डाउट है तो मुझसे आप अभी पूछ लो, else we will conclude with this topic and we will move to नाजिया. देखो, जब 1969 से पहले की सिचुएशन क्या थी कि प्राइवेट सेक्टर ही हैंडल कर रहा था मोस्ट ऑफ द बैंकिंग बिजनेस इन द कंट्री. बट एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम, the government, the Indira Gandhi government, thought that it is not in the best interest of the country that these private sector banks should be allowed to continue. That is why they brought in the Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Assets Act, जिसके थ्रू जो है बैंक्स को नेशनलाइज किया गया था. तो अब क्या है कि क्यों आपको जब प्राइवेटाइज करना है तो देन यू विल हैव टू अमेंड सर्टेन प्रोविजंस इन दीज एक्ट्स व्हिच से दैट द गवर्नमेंट विल रिलिंक्विश इट्स मेजॉरिटी स्टेक और इट्स ओनरशिप. ठीक है, आप प्राइवेट सेक्टर को ओनरशिप हैंडओवर कर रहे हो, सो उसके लिए बैंक गवर्नमेंट को या पार्लियामेंट को इन लॉज में अमेंडमेंट्स लेके आनी पड़ेंगी ताकि ये प्रोसेस आगे कंटिन्यू कर सकें. ठीक है, आई होप नाउ इट इज क्लियर. Sir, is it not bad for their employees? See, whenever you are talking with respect to the greater good of all the people of the country, then you'll have to understand that it is not the good of a community or a section of the people, but the good of the larger nation or the larger people which are involved. So this particular decision, if it leads to the good of a greater number of people, then certainly we have to go ahead with it. एम्प्लॉइज जो हैं दे विल बी स्ट्रीमलाइंड, क्योंकि देखो ऐसा नहीं है कि पहली बार ऐसा हो रहा है, मतलब what I'm trying to say is that earlier also the unions or people, certain people in the you know, in these trade unions, or for that matter in these associations or these pressure groups, you can say, they might be left with certain grievances, but you cannot just stop with going ahead from that amendment or that reform, because in a democracy, if you are able to garner a majority sections, you know, a majority section's welfare, then certainly that step should be taken. सर अप्रैल 22 टू मार्च 20 थे एनपी एस्टिमेट कौन है कितना है सर जी, promoted growth back in 1969. Yes, देखो वो उस सिनारियो के उस टाइम के हिसाब से बात थी. Now it is another circumstances, another situation which is prevalent, and that is why we are having a certain different kind of policy which is the need of the hour. ठीक है, देखो डिफरेंस है ना उस चीज में. Vishab, these are just projections. Fine, we will have to take a look at what is the exact scenario. चलिए, moving on to the third topic, that is SKAO, or the square kilometer array. So for the telescope enthusiasts जो है, this is a project which is underway, the largest radio telescope. Yes, certainly the world's largest radio telescope, which is going to be built in a span of next decade. That is your वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट रेडियो टेलीस्कोप, जो कई कंट्रीज जो हैं कोलैबोरेट करके इसको बनाने की कोशिश कर रही हैं. SARO नहीं है, दिस इज SKAO, दैट इज द ऑब्जर्वेटरी हेयर, यू कैन से. जो SARO नहीं है, इट इज द SKAO प्रोजेक्ट, दैट इज द स्क्वायर किलोमीटर एरे ऑब्जर्वेटरी. फाइन, that is observatory. I'll write it here also. चलिए, तो जो स्काओ प्रोजेक्ट है, ये एक इंटर गवर्नमेंटल काउंसिल हैज बीन कॉन्स्टिट्यूटेड. held its first meeting although it was held virtually only, but it has come into being, and India is also participating in developing this particular largest radio telescope. ठीक है, तो इंटर गवर्नमेंटल काउंसिल जो है इसकी, दिस वाज कॉन्स्टिट्यूटेड एंड इट हेल्ड इट्स फर्स्ट और इट द मेडन मीटिंग of which India is also a part. तो before starting with what are the details, तो इसमें apart from Australia, South Africa and the UK, which are the host nations, These are the three host nations. That is your host nations का मतलब है they are the ones who are hosting the project. Fine. ये मेन तीन होस्ट कंट्रीज हैं जो ये प्रोजेक्ट अंडरटेक जिन्होंने किया. इसके अलावा 13 अदर नेशंस आर आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ इट. बिफोर वी गो इनटू द डिटेल्स, 13 other members or the participants, you can say. There is also an interesting thing which I'll tell you, that USA is not a part of it. Interestingly, United States of America and Russia, they are not a part of this particular project. Fine. Which the UPSC might trick you. So Canada, China, then France, Germany, India, Italy, then the Netherlands also is a part of it. The Netherlands, Portugal, Japan, Portugal, then Netherlands is also a part of it. Apart from Netherlands, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland. South Korea, Spain, and Switzerland, they are a part of it. हाँ जी, मेंबर्स सभी लोग नोट कर लो. अगर कर लिए हैं तो मुझे बता दो प्लीज. देन वी विल move into the details. South Korea, Spain, Switzerland, and one member remaining, that is Sweden. Yes. So these are the 13 other members which are participating in this project. And interestingly, you can note here that USA and Russia, they are not the members, or they are not participating in it. Yes, exactly. That is right, Gopi. The headquarters are in the United Kingdom, and these are the participating host nations. We will discuss that as well. This, I hope, has been noted by everybody. So now moving to the details of the project, that is the SKAO, or the Square Kilometer Array Observatory Project. So जो ये project है, इसमें the headquarters are in the United Kingdom, and apart from this is headquarters. Okay, HQ में confuse मत होना. HQ is the United Kingdom, the headquarters which they are. Okay, the three host nations, the ones which are controlling it. So it is controlled primarily, it is being headquartered in the United Kingdom. Okay, I hope that is done. तो जो SKAO प्रोजेक्ट है, हाँ जी, ये हो, आई होप ये हो गया था. आप लोगों ने नोट कर लिया या स्नैपशॉट ले लिया है? प्लीज कंफर्म इट टू मी. ठीक है, आई जस्ट वेट. प्लीज टेक इट फास्ट. प्लीज नोट डाउन और टेक द स्नैपशॉट फास्ट. Okay, I hope that is done. So it is headquartered in United Kingdom, and the antennas will be placed, or the at two places, that is in South Africa and Australia. ठीक है, जो यूके है यहां से इट विल बी मॉनिटर्ड, monitoring and the controlling will be done from the United Kingdom. That is why we are saying that it is the HQ or the headquarter, and the antennas are going to be set up, the different multiple antennas are going to be set up in South Africa and in Australia, which will be, this will be built in two phases. Out of these two phases, the first phase, we expect it to get completed by 2029-2030. ठीक है, जो फर्स्ट फेज है, जिस फर्स्ट फेज में वी एक्सपेक्ट दिस फेज टू बी कंप्लीटेड बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस डेकेड, or you can say by 2029-2030, and it will see an investment of 1.8 billion euros, the first phase only. The countries collectively are going to invest 1.8 billion euros. जो हमने देखा participating countries हैं, once they will ratify this project, then it means that ratification here means that they are going to commit financial resources. जो हम फर्स्ट फेज के लिए बात कर रहे हैं is going to be to the tune of 1.8 billion euros. रिया, ये पहले टेलीस्कोप्स जो एग्जिस्ट करते हैं उससे एक बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट हम बना रहे हैं, विच इज गोइंग टू बी द वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट रेडियो टेलीस्कोप. वी विल see that its goals are much higher. It wants to explore the origin, the evolution of various different parameters with respect to universe. ठीक है, इसको प्लान करते करते जो है almost it took some 5 to 10 years. It was in the planning stage. Now its execution has been started formally. Fine. So this is the first phase with respect to the SKAO project. Now we will take a look at what are the goals. ये इसका स्नैपशॉट ले लो. We will then discuss the goals. What are the goals, and साउथ अफ्रीका एंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया में कौन कौन सी लोकेशंस पे ये हम अलग अलग डिशेस को सेटअप करेंगे. Yes, Neha, we will come to that. What with this telescope will be useful for when we'll discuss the goals of it. Fine. USA, Russia, as such, there's no reason why they did not join. It was just worth mentioning that I thought I'll let you know that they are not a part of this collaboration. Fine. So, moving on to the goals of the project. So, as a primary goal, no, it is not going to replace anything. It is a new telescope which we are building. ठीक है. So, to study the universe and its evolution, this is the primary goal which is associated here, that it will Ekta. Let's just discuss the goals first. The second phase, it will be undertaken after 2030. ठीक है. Then apart from universe, it is also going to study the origin and evolution of your cosmic magnetism. Origin and evolution of cosmic magnetism and dark energy. This is the second thing which is associated as a goal of your SKAO project. And apart from this, how did the galaxies evolve? or the evolution of galaxies. This is the third goal of this project. ठीक है, अब ये ब्रॉड जो गोल्स हैं, आई होप नाउ दिस इज क्लियर दैट why we are intending to build this particular project. Neha, no, I did not miss that second phase. The second phase is yet to be outlined. अभी first phase की ही बात कर रहे हैं. That is itself in the execution stage, or you can say we have just started to build on that. The first phase is just, it has just commenced, it has just started, और इसको अभी 8 से 10 साल लगेंगे कंप्लीट करने में. उसके बाद फेज 2 की बात होगी. वंस वी आर कंप्लीटेड और वी आर डन विद द फेज 1 विच इज going to get completed by the end of the decade, or you can say 2029 or 30. Okay, हाँ जी, cosmic magnetism and dark energy, I am coming to that. What we exactly mean by cosmic magnetism is that, देखो हमारे यूनिवर्स में there are magnetic fields. You must have read that there is a magnetic field of the earth also. So what this magnetic field it does, it protects our planet from certain harmful radiations from entering the planet. कॉस्मिक मैग्नेटिज्म का मतलब यहां पे ये है, दैट इज द मैग्नेटिक फील्ड एसोसिएटेड इन द यूनिवर्स. जो यूनिवर्स की मैग्नेटिक फील्ड्स हैं उसको रेफर कर रही है यहां पे ये टर्म, दैट इज कॉस्मिक मैग्नेटिज्म. सो दीज magnetic fields, they are important from that point of view that it protects us from the certain harmful radiations. ठीक है, वो मतलब है यहां पे कॉस्मिक मैग्नेटिज्म का. इज इट क्लियर? And now before you come to dark energy also, so there is a mysterious force which is causing the expansion of the universe. This dark energy here, it is a mysterious force, or you can say that a force which is still being studied, which is causing the universe to expand or causing expansion of the universe. So ये जो अभी लेस रिवील्ड चीजें हैं या लेस, these are the aspects which are not completely understood by the scientific community, which this particular project is intending to study so as to have more clarity on it. Fine. So this mysterious force that is causing the rate of expansion of our universe to accelerate, this expansion rate is causing or is increasing by this particular energy which we are referring to as the dark energy here. So that is also still under study by the scientific community. ये अभी भी चीजें particular पूरी तरीके से clear नहीं है to the humanity, more so particularly to your scientists. ठीक है? So that is the difference. That is the thing. I'll also write the cosmic radiation. So this cosmic magnetism, which, so that it goes on record and it is clear to you, these originate from sun and distant galaxies. These are basically high energy protons. This cosmic magnetism, that is the magnetic field of the cosmos as a whole, it is nothing but the high energy protons and atomic nuclei. This much will be sufficient. ये आप नोट कर सकते हो that it is high energy protons and atomic nuclei that we are referring here to as the cosmic energy, which move through space at nearly the speed of light. They move through the space at approximately, you can say, at the light's speed or the speed of light. ठीक है, इसके अलावा Need not go into much detail or further research. This much is beyond the scope of the paper. That is your origin and evolution of the cosmic energy and the dark energy, which are two important parameters which the square kilometer array observatory is going to study. हाँ जी, ये चीज क्लियर है. गोल्स क्या है SKAO के? Please confirm or please ask if there is any doubt. Also, note it or take a snapshot. Then we'll move to how this project is going to be designed and what is India's participation. चलिए, great. सो अब देखो, जो बात हो रही थी ऑस्ट्रेलिया की और साउथ अफ्रीका की, जो मेन पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं, जो दो होस्ट कंट्रीज हैं अपार्ट फ्रॉम योर यूनाइटेड किंगडम. सो दिस SKAO प्रोजेक्ट डिजाइन जो है, फर्स्ट वी विल टेक अप दैट व्हाट इज गोइंग टू बी established in the first host, that is the South Africa. So South Africa के कारो रीजन में particularly which falls in South Africa. So in the Karo region of South Africa, what the SKO project is going to do, that it will establish a telescope which will have 197 dishes. Since it is going to be the world's largest telescope, so we are definitely going to see that there will be a large number of dishes which are going to be established, and in the first host country 197 dishes of each of 15 meter. 15 मीटर साइज अगर हम बात करें डिश का, तो इट इज अ ह्यूज साइज विच इज गोइंग टू बी इंस्टॉल्ड देयर. 15 मीटर डायमीटर, दिस इज डायमीटर. This is a huge size for a dish to be established here, and it is going to be operated by South African Radio Astronomy Observatory. South African Radio Astronomy Observatory is going to operate here at the field level. Fine. डिशेज मीन, देखो जो हम एंटीनाज लगाएंगे, आप उसको सिंपल लैंग्वेज में या लेमन लैंग्वेज में एंटीना कह सकते हो. मोस्ट ऑफ यू माइट हैव सीन द पैराबोलिक शेप्ड एंटीनाज, जो हम इस शेप में, पैराबोलिक शेप में एंटीनाज देखते थे पहले. अब तो आपके DTH आ गए हैं या डायरेक्ट टू होम सर्विसेज हैं, बट जो पैराबोलिक एंटीनाज जो पहले हम रूफटॉप पे इंस्टॉल करते थे, दैट इज द डिश विच इज बीइंग डिस्कस्ड हियर. फाइन, जो इस टेलीस्कोप में एसोसिएटेड है. देन मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट होस्ट नेशन, दैट इज ऑस्ट्रेलिया. So apart from the South African dishes, Australia is going to have this telescope installed in the Buladi or the Western Australian region. That is Buladi in West. That is western part of Australia, the Buladi province. So यहाँ पे, yes, certainly it is inverted umbrella like only. So in the Buladi region of Australia, the telescope will have 1.3 lakh antennas. This is how huge the project is going to be, that it will have 1.3 lakh. This is 1.3 lakh antennas in the western Australian region of Buladi, and it is going to be installed at the Murchison Radio Astronomy Observatory. ठीक है, ये दो ऑब्जर्वेटरीज पर्टिकुलरली यहाँ पे इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर यू टू टेक नोट ऑफ, दैट इज द साउथ अफ्रीकन रेडियो एस्ट्रोनॉमी ऑब्जर्वेटरी इन साउथ अफ्रीका एंड द मर्चिसन रेडियो एस्ट्रोनॉमी ऑब्जर्वेटरी इन ऑस्ट्रेलिया। ठीक है, ये दो ऑब्जर्वेटरीज हैं जहां पे ये इंस्टॉल किए जाएंगे द 197 एंड 1.3 लाख एंटीनास और द डिशेस फॉर दिस टेलीस्कोप। बहुत बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट है ये, काफी ज्यादा इसमें हमने देखा कि the money also to the tune of 1.3 billion euros is involved, which is a huge amount, and apart from that the equipment also is great. ठीक है, and the Australian telescope here will be operated by CSIRO or the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, that is Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization. Hanji, is it clear? The details of the project, these are the regions which are important for you to remember: the Karoo region in South Africa and the Buladi region in the Western Australia, which will see that these telescopes will be installed at these areas, and they will be operated here by the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory and in Australia by the CSIRO. ठीक है, यहां तक क्लियर है ना सारा कुछ? जो प्रोजेक्ट डिजाइन है, इज द प्रोजेक्ट डिजाइन क्लियर टू एवरीबडी? ओके, इसमें आई होप नोबडी हैज एनी डाउट। आई होप आप लोगों ने नोट कर लिया है, नहीं तो प्लीज स्नैपशॉट ले लीजिए। HINA CSIRO is Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization. Fine. हाँ जी, और कोई डाउट तो नहीं ना? I'll just check if there is any doubt pending. Great. Konika, we'll try to wind up it somewhere between 2:45 and 3. चलिए, so with respect to the Indian participation, that is Indian participation in SKAO, so through the Department of Atomic Energy and the Department of Science and Technology, we are going to participate in this particular project, that is through the Department of Atomic Energy and the Department of Science and Tech, that is your DST and the DAE. इनके थ्रू जो है इंडिया ने भी अपना एक डेलीगेशन जो है वो भेजा है, जो पार्टिसिपेट करेगा ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ आवर कंट्री इन दिस पर्टिकुलर प्रोजेक्ट, एंड द लीड इज बीइंग taken by the research team of TFIR NCRO, that is National Center for Radio Astrophysics. National Center for Radio Astrophysics. This is under the TFIR, that is Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. उसका ये एक institute है, that is the National Center for Radio Astrophysics. I'll just mention what is TFIR here, that is Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. So the team from the DAE and the DST is being led by the National Center for Radio Astrophysics of the TFIR or the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. Apart from that, the Indian team, ये हो गया. This is the delegation which has been sent by India. It consists through this DAE and DST, led by or under the TFIR NCRA, sorry, that is National Center for Radio Astrophysics. Now, apart from this, the Indian team was the first amongst जो हमारा इसमें contribution रहा है, that is the Indian team has been the first to submit and get the design approval of the telescope manager. Submitted and got approval of the Indian team. It submitted and got approval of the design of the telescope manager. ये आप एक तरीके से कह सकते हो, this is a crucial component in the SKAO project. ठीक है, telescope manager का ये यहाँ पे मतलब है it will have all the end-to-end operations which will be the telescope's end-to-end operations. जितने भी operations हम इससे करेंगे, all the observations which will be made, it will be catered by the telescope manager only, which is an important or the most crucial part of it. Also, it is nicknamed as the nervous system. This telescope manager, which was designed by the Indian team, it is nicknamed as the nervous system of SKAO. ये एक अच्छी खबर है हमारे लिए, या कह सकती हो ये एक अच्छी अचीवमेंट है, that the Indian team it has successfully submitted it designed the telescope manager, and also we got the approval for it, which is now also nicknamed as your nervous system. इसी से पता चलता है कि ये जो telescope manager है, it is highly relevant with respect to this particular project. हाँ जी, देखो TFIR नेशनल सेंटर जो है यहाँ पे ध्रुव, TFIR is a premier research organization which has associated itself with the National Center for Radio Astrophysics, which is leading the Indian team. ठीक है, this is the TFIR National Center for Radio Astrophysics. नर्वस बेस से, और ममता देखो नर्वस सिस्टम कहने का मतलब यहाँ पे ये है कि सिंस इन द ह्यूमन बॉडी नर्वस सिस्टम इज one of the most vital, or you can say the most vital systems without which effectively the person cannot survive. That is why it is being said that यहाँ पे इसकी इंपॉर्टेंस इतनी ज्यादा है इस टेलीस्कोप मैनेजर की कि इसको जस्ट टू ड्रॉ ए कंपैरिजन इसको नर्वस सिस्टम कहा गया है एसकेएओ प्रोजेक्ट का. ठीक है, हाँ जी, अब क्लियर है. एंड टू एंड ऑपरेशन का मतलब यह हुआ योग्यता के राइट फ्रॉम स्टार्टिंग टू ऑब्जर्व और कैच द सिग्नल्स फ्रॉम द यूनिवर्स टू ऑल द वे ट्रांसमिटिंग देम टू द ऑब्जर्वेटरीज फॉर देयर एनालिसिस. All the operations which will be done by this telescope, they will be managed by this telescope manager. जितने भी ऑपरेशंस ये कंडक्ट करेगा, एसकेएओ प्रोजेक्ट जो टेलीस्कोप है हमारा, ये सारे इसके ऑब्जर्वेशंस, इसके सारे ऑपरेशंस विल बी फाइनली टैकल्ड बाय द टेलीस्कोप मैनेजर। ठीक है, ये मतलब वो एंड टू एंड ऑपरेशंस का मींस स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग टू द वेरी एंड। फाइन, so this is the role which the Indian team has been given. Apart from that, now the Indian team, now it has been chosen, since we have got this achievement to our hat, now the Indian team has been chosen to lead the construction of the TM system. ये अभी हमने डिजाइन किया था. Now we will lead the construction of this TM system or the telescope manager system. ठीक है, जो नेक्स्ट हमारे ऊपर the another big responsibility now which has been given to the Indian team is that they will now lead the construction for the TM system, which is an important design which we only had done and successfully submitted to the SKAO. ठीक है, apart from that, to build the digital hardware also, the Indian team will also build the digital hardware. जो दो कंपोनेंट्स होते हैं किसी भी सिस्टम के, अगर हम कंप्यूटर लैंग्वेज में बात करें, सॉफ्टवेयर एंड द हार्डवेयर, so the digital hardware systems also have been given to the Indian team to build. That is for it will basically process the all the data. ठीक है, जो ये हार्डवेयर है जो हम बिल्ड करेंगे, जो इंडियन टीम बिल्ड करेगी, so this is with respect to the participation which India is going to have. ठीक है, ये हमने लास्ट जो इस टॉपिक में चीज देखनी थी कि हमारी इसमें पार्टिसिपेशन क्या है. देखो, Indian scientists, they are famous across the world, though they might not be able to excel remaining within the territory of India, but they have gone abroad and they have shown marvelous results. This is one such example that not just by going across to other countries, by while remaining in the country itself, Indian team has gone on to achieve such a marvelous feat. Fine, this is a great achievement which we have achieved, or which has come to our kitty by our hard work and our perseverance. हाँ जी, इंडियन रोल आई होप सभी लोगों को क्लियर है. इंडियन पार्टिसिपेशन, इज इट क्लियर टू एवरीबडी, और इज देयर एनीथिंग व्हिच इज लेफ्ट? प्लीज कंफर्म इट टू मी. ओके, ठीक है, ग्रेट ग्रेट, थैंक यू फॉर कंफर्मिंग. हाँ जी, ये नोट कर लिया है या स्नैपशॉट ले लिया है तो भी बता दो, नहीं तो मैं 2 मिनट रुक जाता हूं. एंड देन वी विल मूव टू the next topic for the day, that is the sedition law, which has constantly been in news. Okay, great. So now moving on to another important topic, that is your sedition law. The fourth topic, that is section 124A or the sedition law. हाँ जी, तो ये जो लॉ है काफी टाइम से हमें देखने को मिल रहा है कि इसके ऊपर कंट्रोवर्सी या न्यूज में ये रहा ही है. देयर इज अ डाउट, प्लीज एक्सप्लेन. लास्ट सेकंड लाइन नॉट अंडरस्टूड. ओके, देयर इज अ पेंडिंग डाउट. देखो, जो यहाँ पे लास्ट और सेकंड लास्ट लाइंस की बात की थी, दैट इंडियन टीम ने जो टेलीस्कोप मैनेजर है फॉर द एसकेएओ प्रोजेक्ट, उसकी डिजाइन was submitted by the Indian team, which was approved. Now that telescope manager system, it also will be constructed by the Indian team. ये बात हमने यहाँ पे की थी, जो एक बच्चे का डाउट था. और साथ ही साथ जो डिजिटल हार्डवेयर है वो भी इंडियन टीम ही बिल्ड करेगी। ठीक है, ये चीज थी जो लास्ट और सेकंड लास्ट लाइन में हमने बात की थी। आई होप नाउ इट इज क्लियर। जो टेलीस्कोप मैनेजर के रिस्पेक्ट में एसकेओ प्रोजेक्ट के हमने देखा था। चलिए, सो ऑल इज क्लियर विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दैट। मूविंग ऑन टू सेक्शन 124। तो देखो, सेडिशन मतलब क्या है कि आपके फंडामेंटल राइट ऑफ योर फ्रीडम टू स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन कैन नॉट गो ऑन टू अ लेवल where you are wanting to overthrow the government. Yes, certainly ये आपके GS2 पेपर जो है which caters to the Indian Constitution, constitutional provisions and polity, this is related to that, the sedition law. So what does section 124A of the IPC say? That a person by words, written or printed or spoken, is trying to incite the people to overthrow the elected government of the country, that will be construed or that will be understood to be सेडिशन। ठीक है, इसको मतलब ये हुआ सिंपल सिंपल कि वो आप जो है कंसिडर करोगे उस चीज को कि ये सेडिशियस एक्ट के अंडर आता है। ठीक है, दीज वर्ड्स स्पोकन और अदरवाइज दे ब्रिंग्स और अटेम्प्ट टू ब्रिंग इनटू हेट्रेड, either they directly bring or they attempts to bring hatred, or you can say disaffection, or incite violence। अगर जो है words which have been spoken, printed, or they have been written, they are trying to attempt to bring or they directly are bringing an element of hatred or disaffection, or they are trying to incite violence for the government established by law। ये सारी चीजें या इनमें से कोई भी, if an act is trying to do towards the government established by law, that is a democratically elected government। देखो, जो आपने सरकार चुनी है दैट हैज बीन इलेक्टेड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली, मतलब क्या है कि वो ऐसे ही कोई भी नहीं बैठ गया आपको गवर्न करने के लिए। we the people of India ourselves have given that government, we have put them in power and we have asked, we have elected them। that is a government which has been established by law under the provisions of the constitution। So if under the provisions of the constitution a government has been elected and somebody is trying to uproot that government or unseat that government either by words which are written or otherwise, by bringing in an element of hatred against the government, disaffection or inciting violence, then certainly that has to be taken into consideration। Mega Gopi, that is another angle to it, but first if we understand that what is the law of sedition, then certainly these elements they cannot be a part of your free speech। फ्री स्पीच का हनन इससे किया जाता है, दैट इज अनदर एंगल टू इट। लेकिन आप अपने फ्री स्पीच के नाम में एक डेमोक्रेटिकली इलेक्टेड गवर्नमेंट अंडर द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, यू कैन नॉट गो एंड अपरूट और अनसीट इट। ठीक है, ये यहां पे दैट इज द इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट। ऑल्सो another aspect which should be considered here is that disaffection shall include disloyalty also। कि अगर हम अपने गवर्नमेंट अपने कंट्री के लिए वी आर गोइंग बिकमिंग डिसलॉयल, देन दैट इज इंक्लूडेड इन दिस डिसअफेक्शन, दैट इज disaffection. It will include disloyalty towards the country. Fine. So that is the element which is another important element, disloyalty and all feelings of enmity, which will, all these will constitute an offense of sedition. हाँ जी, तो ब्रॉड जो मतलब है सेडिशन का कि कौन कौन सी चीजें हैं जो सेडिशन के अंडर काउंट होंगी, जिसको आप एन एक्ट ऑफ सेडिशन या एन ऑफेंस ऑफ सेडिशन मान सकते हो, वो ये सारे ब्रॉडर डेफिनेशंस में आएगा, दैट सर्टेन एक्ट्स व्हिच ट्राई टू promote hatred, disaffection, disloyalty with respect to the government of the day which has been elected or established by law, all these acts will be considered as a part of sedition under section 124A of the IPC. This is the section 124A, which is the section which relates to the offense of sedition. ठीक है, हाँ जी, बैकग्राउंड क्लियर है ना, बैकग्राउंड और कंटेक्स्ट एंड द broader view, broader definition, please note it or take the snapshot, then we will move further into the topic, we'll delve into the details, that is what is the origin, what is the punishment and what is the constitutional validity. हम इसको कंप्लीटली देख लेंगे कि इसके प्रोज क्या हैं, कॉन्स क्या हैं, या व्हाट आर द आर्गुमेंट्स इन सपोर्ट ऑफ सेडिशन एंड व्हाट आर द आर्गुमेंट्स व्हिच आर देयर व्हिच go against this 124A or the sedition law. ठीक है, चलिए, ओके, ग्रेट. So now moving to the provisions or the legality, the punishment for offense of sedition. What is the punishment? Punishment under section 124A or the sedition law. So सर तो आजकल तो इतनी प्रोटेस्ट चल रही है इसके अंडर. See, Muhammad Anas and Navdeep, the citizen is entitled to criticize the government, but at the same time there has to be a balance which has to be drawn. कोई भी ये नहीं कह रहा कि आप क्रिटिसाइज ना करो गवर्नमेंट को या गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज को, ठीक है. We will take a look at it also when we will see the arguments which are against the sedition law and certain arguments which or you can say the points which support the section 124A or the sedition law. ठीक है, please wait for that. We will discuss all those things also. Citizens are certainly, they are entitled to criticize the policies of the government. So as far as the punishment is concerned, so under section 124A for sedition, it is life imprisonment can be the maximum punishment which can be given, and this can be with or without fine. The maximum punishment that can be given under the sedition law, it is life imprisonment, and apart from that, this particular law, it is non-bailable. Apart from being non-bailable, the confiscation of passport is also there. that is travel restrictions. आप जो है you cannot travel abroad if your passport is confiscated. This is a provision that if somebody is sentenced or convicted under the law of sedition, then their passport shall be confiscated. Apart from that, a person will also be barred from a government job. सरकारी नौकरी जो है उससे भी it will be barred, it will bar a person from having a job in the government, be it the central government or the state government, which is another punishment which comes along with the provisions of the sedition law. Apart from that, the person who's convicted, they'll have to produce themselves. The person who has been charged with this particular section of the IPC, they'll have to produce themselves at all the times that is as and when required. Produce themselves at the court of law. इसका मतलब सिंपली ये है कि अगर आपके ऊपर ये सेक्शन इंपोज किया गया है, इफ दिस सेक्शन इज इंपोज ऑन समबडी, then they'll have to be present in the court of law whenever they are asked to do so, at all the times as and when required by the agencies, that they'll produce themselves in the court of law. ठीक है, these are the punishments which are associated with the sedition law. Apart from being non-bailable, it is also non-compoundable and cognizable. ठीक है, आई होप यहां तक पनिशमेंट जो है वो क्लियर है. फिर बिफोर गोइंग ऑन टू दी प्रोज और दी आर्ग्यूमेंट्स इन फेवर ऑफ एंड अगेंस्ट, वी विल हैव अ लुक दैट हाउ दिस लॉ गॉट इवॉल्व्ड. ये इसका ओरिजिन क्या है. हाँ जी, ये प्रोविजंस क्लियर हैं जो पनिशमेंट के प्रोविजंस हैं. प्लीज टेक अ स्नैपशॉट, देन वी विल टेक अ लुक एट व्हाट इज द ओरिजिन ऑफ द सेडिशन लॉ, कि कहां से ये इवॉल्व होके आज प्रेजेंट मॉडर्न डे में कैसे आया है. Please explain the last point. The last point is that if you are charged with section 124, if it is imposed on you, then the investigative agencies, whenever they want you to be present as and when required, then at all those times you will have to produce yourself at the court of law. You'll have to go and produce yourself in the court of law as and when you are required to do so. ठीक है, there will be travel restrictions, your passport shall be confiscated. चलिए, that was the last point. I hope that is clear. So now the origin of the sedition law. देखो, ऐसा नहीं है कि जो एक बात बीच में भी हो रही थी कि सिटीजन्स के फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन का कंप्लीटली इससे हनन है. Dhruv, I hope that was clear to you. The last point, it was, I explained it. I hope that is clear to you. So, जो हम बात कर रहे थे कि बहुत सारे और कंट्रीज भी हैं जहां आज की डेट में ये लॉ एग्जिस्ट करता है, पर एक बार ओरिजिन अगर हम देखें, सो दिस पर्टिकुलर लॉ इट वाज ओरिजिनली ड्राफ्टेड इन 1837 by Thomas Macaulay in the year 1837. That is, under the Britishers, this law was drafted for the first time, but it was inserted in the IPC or the Indian Penal Code, you can just to be clear on that, IPC या Indian Penal Code में it was inserted as an amendment by James Stephen in 1870. In 1870 by an amendment in the IPC that was introduced by James Stephen. तो देखो इंपॉर्टेंट यहां पे ये है कि ठीक है एक बार आउटलाइन बना लेंगे हम, बट यू हैव टू बैलेंस इट आउट. अल्टीमेटली इन द एग्जाम यूपीएससी माइट आस्क दैट in the current scenario of there being so many protests and the use of the sedition law by the government, how far do you agree that its execution was made in a balanced manner? Critically analyze. Then what will you do is that you cannot take a one sided view or a completely tilted view. समझ रहे हो मेरी बात को? इंपॉर्टेंट ये है कि आप एक बैलेंस्ड व्यू जो है वो ही प्रोजेक्ट करो कि दोनों तरीके से आप अपने पर्सपेक्टिव्स रखोगे इन द मेंस आंसर. आप अगर एक तरफ इंक्लाइन हो जाओगे देन सर्टेनली दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू फेच यू मार्क्स. ठीक है, और उसको आप इस तरीके से आउटलाइन कर सकते हो दैट देयर आर सर्टेन historical baggages also which we are carrying, but in some form you can say that its execution can be done in a more better way. Fine, ये चीज क्लियर है ना? ये चीज दिमाग में रखना कि yes, rights comes with certain duties. ये बिल्कुल सही, ये तो है ही है. Yes, certainly Vishव, there are certain duties which as an obligation or by as an extension of your rights. देखो ये कहते हैं ना एक सिक्के के दो पहलू, या these are the two sides of a coin, that if you are having certain rights given by the constitution then there are also certain duties which are to be abided by or which are to be followed. ठीक है, वही चीज है यहाँ पे. चलो, I got a bit digressed. So coming back to the origin, so it was added to the IPC in 1870 by an amendment, and this amendment added the section which is in news, that is section 124A of the IPC. ठीक है, 1870 में इसको ऐड किया गया था. And also if we talk about the historical perspectives or the origins, then there were many Indian nationalist leaders also who were tried under this sedition law or this section, that is Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Bhagat Singh, or you can say Shaheed-e-Azam Bhagat Singh, then Jawaharlal Nehru. They all were tried under this 124A section of the IPC by the Britishers, and in fact it was the great Bal Gangadhar Tilak who was sent to 6 years jail term. Bal Gangadhar Tilak ka what was the newspaper? What was the name of the newspaper that was पब्लिश्ड बाय बाल गंगाधर तिलक, जिसके आर्टिकल की वजह से इनको ये 6 साल की जेल टर्म हुई थी? हाँ जी, इंडियन मॉडर्न इंडिया. यस, मराठा वाज देयर, रक्षंदा, बट इट वाज पब्लिश्ड इन अनदर आर्टिकल इन अनदर न्यूज़पेपर. जो बाल गंगाधर तिलक का न्यूज़पेपर था बाय द नेम ऑफ केसरी. He had written an article in newspaper Kesari. Yes, certainly Nazia. Yes, Yogita, it was Kesari, जिसमें बाल गंगाधर तिलक ने एक आर्टिकल लिखा था by the title of the misfortune of the country. The misfortune of the country was the article which was authored by our great nationalist leader, that is Bal Gangadhar Tilak, in his newspaper Kesari. This was the newspaper. For those of who you don't know, so in Kesari he published an article, The Misfortune of the Country, for which he was under this sedition law given a jail term of 6 years. So this is the historical linkage which you can outline in your answer. ठीक है, हिस्टोरिकली अगर स्टार्ट करके वहां से आउटलाइन करनी शुरू करोगे लीनियज, तो यू कैन यूज दीज पॉइंट्स एंड द लीडर्स व्हिच वर जेल्ड अंडर द सेक्शन 124. यस, गांधी जी ऑल्सो. चलिए, नाउ आफ्टर हैविंग डिस्कस्ड द ओरिजिन्स or the historical evolution, now we will discuss the constitutional validity. Of 124A. That is, what have been the observations which have been made by the courts in the country with respect to the constitutional validity of 124A. Okay, some people have not noted. Please note it or take a snapshot. देखो, ये PDF ना प्रोवाइड करके इस तरीके से क्लास कंडक्ट करने का मोटिव यही है that you note it side by side in order to retain it for a longer time. Fine. चलिए, ठीक है. I hope now everybody has noted it. हाँ जी, प्लीज कंफर्म कर दो, एक बार नोट कर लिया है ना. मैं आई एम गोइंग टू फ्लिप इट नाउ. ठीक है, तो इसकी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल वैलिडिटी के ऊपर बात कर रहे थे हम कि जो 124A है, जो सेडिशन का लॉ है, इसकी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल वैलिडिटी इट वाज चैलेंज्ड in the state of Bihar versus Kedarnath. इस पर्टिकुलर केस में, दैट इज केदारनाथ और द स्टेट ऑफ बिहार वर्सेस केदारनाथ केस, this particular case saw the constitutional validity of 124A being challenged. This was in the year 1962. This case is of 1962. ठीक है, so then only this particular case was challenged in the Supreme Court, and the Constitution bench कितने जजेस अगर बैठे हैं तो हम कहते हैं कि इट इज अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच. पॉलिटी कंप्लीट कर ली है, पढ़ के आप लोगों ने रिवाइज कर ली होगी या कर रहे होगे. व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन अ डिवीजन बेंच एंड अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच? हाउ मेनी जजेस मिनिमम सिट इन अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच? यस, एग्जैक्टली. A division bench is just of 1 or 2 judges. If the Supreme Court allocates minimum 5 or more judges, then we say that it is a constitution bench. ठीक है, अगर जो मैटर एट हैंड है, if it is of such grave importance that the interpretation of the constitution is involved, if the court is sitting to handle a matter of such significance, of such grave importance, that it involves the interpretation of the constitution with respect to a particular law which is being challenged or which is being heard by the court, then we see that it is the constitution bench which is created. That is, so much resource by the court is allocated into the डिलीवरी ऑफ जस्टिस विद दैट पर्टिकुलर मैटर. वही यहां पे भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच इसलिए कॉन्स्टिट्यूट किया गया था. तो दिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच इट हेल्ड दैट एनी एक्ट which has an effect of subverting the government, any act or action which has the effect of subverting the government, it will be construed under this law as an act of sedition. ठीक है, चाहे वो violent means से हो, this act if it involves certain element which can lead to violence or create public disorder, then it will amount to sedition. All these things the court observed, the constitution bench observed that this will amount to sedition if you are trying to subvert the government or you are trying to create violence or incite violence or public disorder in the country, then it will be understood that it is an act of sedition. ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच की ऑब्जर्वेशन थी सुप्रीम कोर्ट के केदारनाथ केस में. इसके अलावा लेकिन कोर्ट ने एक बैलेंस्ड व्यू लिया, जो बात हम पहले भी कर रहे थे इन द कोर्स ऑफ द लेक्चर, that there has to be a fine tuning which has to be done, there has to be a balance which has to be created. So with respect to that particular balance in favor of the citizens and against the states, it said that disapproval, this constitution bench here, it noted that there is no such thing which denies an ordinary Indian citizen from criticizing the policies of the government. सर ये न्यूज क्यों आई है, क्या हुआ है इस केस में? ममता, जो प्रोटेस्ट चल रहे हैं उनके रिगार्डिंग वी हैव सीन दैट द गवर्नमेंट हैज इन्वोक्ड दिस सेक्शन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू मल्टीपल केसेस, विद रिस्पेक्ट टू मल्टीपल सिटीजंस, and some members of the judiciary, some members of the media, and a prominent leader from the opposition party also, who represents a constituency from Kerala in the Lok Sabha. He was also booked under this sedition law, and the court came to their rescue by granting them bail, anticipatory bail, or protect from arrest. So that is why it was important and it was in news. So coming back to the observation of the constitutional bench, the Supreme Court's bench said that measures of a government with a view to improvement can be criticized. That is, measures or actions of the government with an aim or with a view, you can say with a view to improve that particular decision. अगर सरकार के आप किसी पॉलिसी या किसी मेजर या किसी एक्शन से you want to disapprove of that, then it means that the court said they will not be construed as sedition, but this improvement should be an intention or it should be an aim, and it should be done, this should be done in by legal means or by lawful means, meaning thereby that you can assemble peaceably without arms. ठीक है? What is the line between the two? Hitkankshi, the line between the two is that you can assemble peaceably without having arms with you. You can criticize the policies of the government without asking for the people to become violent and overthrow the government of the day or uproot the government of the day. That is the balance which has to be taken into consideration. Certainly, yes, under Article 19, under 19 clause 2, there are these constitutionally guaranteed rights that you can assemble, you can criticize, but at the same time you cannot, just pick up arms and openly go on confronting with the government. that will be against the interest, that will be against the security, the sovereignty, the integrity of the country as a whole. That will be a direct challenge which you are posing to the sovereignty of the nation, to the integrity of the nation. ठीक है, तो कोर्ट ने यहाँ पे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बेंच ने एक बैलेंस्ड व्यू लिया कि आप सरकार के मेजर्स से, एक्शन से, यू कैन हैव डिसअप्रूवल फॉर देम with a view or an aim of improving them, but that should be done by lawful means. ये यहां पे बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एक कैविएट है, that they should be done in lawful framework only. Also the court said that comments which the people are making, however strongly worded, that is, you can strongly also criticize the government, however strongly worded. This here, just add that it is not sedition. ठीक है, ये मैं चीज यहां पे आप यहीं पे मेंशन कर लेना कि the court held that this will not be construed as citizen. Next, the court said that any comments, however strongly worded, if they are not exciting public disorder, if not exciting public disorder or disharmony, then also they are permitted under the constitution, that you can do so. You can, without exciting public disorder, however strongly you might articulate those words. ठीक है? So what about farmers rally violence that comes under this act? See, Prajapati, if at all there is violence which is associated with any protest, with any rally for that matter, वो कोई भी protest हो, कोई भी rally हो, किसी भी section of the society से associated हो, अगर उसमें violence का element है, then definitely you cannot allow that under the garb of freedom of speech and expression. Get this very straight. The state is going to come very high-handed if there is an element of violence which is involved and you are trying to pose a threat to the security of the nation. That cannot be allowed in a democratically elected government. A sovereign country will never allow it. ये सिर्फ हमारी कंट्री की बात नहीं है, जितनी अदर डेमोक्रेसीज ऑल्सो, द सॉवरेन डेमोक्रेसीज ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, नीदर ऑफ देम विल ऑल्सो अलाउ सच एन एक्ट. Be it US, be it Canada, be it Australia, be it the United Kingdom, none of these countries will allow such a ruckus to be operated on the streets of their national capital. Fine, I hope that is clear. Yes, certainly these are not elements of any civilized society. You want to protest, you are certainly guaranteed by the constitution to protest. What is stopping you from protesting peacefully? These folks were sitting for the past so many months, they were sitting peacefully. That was fine, that is their constitutional right. But as far as these mischievous elements they come into the picture, those who are advocating for violent means, those who are enhancing or supporting, or in direct fashion they are just going on rampaging, destroying the public property, who is going to help it, or who is going to be helped by it for that matter? So that is a balance which you have to get very clearly in your mind. You are going to be the bureaucrats in the country who will run the affairs of the government. You will be the policy executioners. Fine, आपकी तरह ही तो वहां वो अधिकारी है ना, the ones, the deputy, the DCP there, the SP there, the district magistrate there, who were tasked with containing the situation, not allowing the situation to deteriorate further into any violent act. They are officers like you only, who were once aspirants, and now they are in that position to hold all these things and to limit them and not allow them to deteriorate further. So that is a balance which you have to maintain. Yes, exactly. You can cite that example also. That was not a good act at all. Donald Trump was certainly on the wrong foot of the constitution when he incited that crowd to run amok and do that act which the world witnessed. That was certainly a shameful act for the world to watch, for the world's oldest democracy, that is the US. ठीक है, तो coming back to the observation of the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court in the Kedarnath versus State of Bihar 1962 case, the court certainly took a balanced view, and it said that comments, however strongly worded, expressing disapproval of the policies of the government, if they are not exciting public disorder, if they are not leading to violence, if they do not excite violence, or if they do not promote violence, then certainly they are protected under your freedom of speech and they will not be construed as sedition. That is not sedition under 124A. ठीक है, ये क्लियर है. केदारनाथ वर्सेस बिहार का जो केस है हमने डिस्कस किया, और जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच की ऑब्जर्वेशंस हैं इसमें कि क्या सेडिशन है और क्या सेडिशन नहीं है. हाँ जी, प्लीज लेट मी नो इफ देयर इज एनी डाउट, or else we will now move on to discussing the arguments which can be cited. If there is a question in your paper, then what could be the arguments which you can write in support of and against the sedition law? हाँ जी, सभी ने ये नोट डाउन कर लिया या इसका स्नैपशॉट ले लिया? I'll just flip and we will discuss the arguments in support and against against section 124A. हाँ जी, all of you. इसके बाद हमने एक इंपॉर्टेंट केस स्टडी भी डिस्कस करनी है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द स्टेट ऑफ तमिलनाडु. ओके, ग्रेट. सो वी विल डिवाइड it like this and we will say the arguments. This is the section which is at hand. So arguments for and arguments against. No, Navdeep, देखो, this will be applicable. You can certainly, with respect to the Indian citizens, you can book them, or if anybody who is staying in India, you can directly charge them under section 124A. But if somebody is doing such thing from outside of India, then it will be difficult to bring back that person to book, or bring back, book that person and extradite him from that particular territory. It will depend upon what is the citizenship status. Even if some citizen of India is residing abroad, then certainly you can go ahead and invoke this section and confiscate the passport or revoke the passport. But if the person which you are talking about is a citizen of another country, then there are limited options, because you'll have to bring in that element of extradition also. So चलिए, ठीक है. सो पहले देखते हैं कि आर्गुमेंट सपोर्ट में क्या है, अगेंस्ट में तो हम बहुत सारे निकाल ही लेंगे. सो टू कॉम्बैट डिविसिव टेंडेंसीज एंड सेसेशन, to combat divisive or divisive tendencies, secessionist tendencies और secession you can say, जो बात होती रहती है कि अलग some कुछ sections जो हैं society के they want. Yes, certainly Prajapati, you can relate that toolkit case also. You can relate that. So as a first argument for the support or arguments for section 124A, to counter or to combat the divisive tendencies or secessionist tendencies with certain just lumpen elements or the certain sporadic societal elements they advocate for having, establishing the land of their own or the nation of their own, इनको combat करने के लिए. Then another argument which we can make in favor is that the freedom of speech is not equivalent to your freedom of speech does not allow you to or is not equal to increasing or spreading disaffection, that is license to spread disaffection. It is not a license to spread disaffection. ठीक है कि अगर आपको फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच है लेकिन उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि यू हैव अ लाइसेंस टू स्प्रेड डिसअफेक्शन अगेंस्ट द स्टेट और द duly elected government of the day. Then another point which could be, which is an observation by the Supreme Court repeatedly, the Supreme Court had repeatedly observed that just because an act or a section in the law can be misused does not mean that you invalidate that particular law itself. ठीक है, that means that mere possibility of misuse. देखो अगर ये ग्राउंड बना के हम बोलें कि इस लॉ को खत्म कर देना चाहिए तो ऐसे तो बहुत सारे लॉज हैं जिसको मिसयूज किया जा सकता है या जिनके सेक्शंस को मिसयूज किया जा सकता है. दैट डज नॉट मीन दैट यू विल रिमूव और यू विल स्क्रैप द एंटायर लॉ इटसेल्फ. That is what the Supreme Court has repeatedly observed in multiple cases, that you cannot, by the mere possibility of misuse of a section or a law, or you can say a provision, that is possibility of misuse of a provision, just because ऐसी कोई possibility exist करती है, you cannot invalidate the law itself. ठीक है, this is the contention or this is the message which the Supreme Court has been conveying to us. Fine. So this is another point which also says that vulnerability extends only to the action and not to the section. मतलब ये हुआ कि सरकार या एग्जीक्यूटिव उसको किस तरीके से एग्जीक्यूट कर रहा है. For that we can still extend protection, but not for invalidating or repealing or abrogating the section itself. Then, as I've already said, that sovereign democracies, sovereign countries like USA, Canada, then UK also, though it has repealed this particular law, but it still has provisions. And Australia, they have provisions to deal with an act such as sedition. ठीक है, ऑस्ट्रेलिया भी इसमें ऐड कर लो. They have laws which have provisions like the Sedition Act or the Sedition Section जो 124A है. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि हम इकलौते ही हैं ऐसे जो लेके चले हुए हैं ऐसे कानूनों को, और भी ग्लोबली एग्जांपल्स एग्जिस्ट करते हैं जो कंट्रीज सिमिलर प्रोविजंस जो हैं एनफोर्स कर रही हैं, विच आर देमसेल्व्स डेमोक्रेसीज. ठीक है, तो ये भी आप इसको सब्सटैंशिएट कर सकते हो इन पर्टिकुलर एग्जांपल्स के थ्रू. देखो तीसरा पॉइंट जो है, तीसरा पॉइंट मैं रिपीट करता हूं, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने रिपीटेडली ये ऑब्जर्व किया है कि जस्ट बिकॉज अगर किसी लॉ में कोई प्रोविजन है जिसको मिसयूज किया जा सकता है, दैट इज इट कैन बी मिसयूज्ड बाय द एग्जीक्यूटिव, दैट डज नॉट मीन that you will ask for the invalidation or the abrogation or scrapping of the law completely. That is what I'm talking about in the third point when I say that just because there is a possibility of misuse, you cannot make this argument that the entire law should be scrapped. ठीक है, then तो there are multiple laws in the Indian Penal Code, in the CRPC and the constitutional provisions themselves which are prone to be misused. But that does not mean that you will go on to repealing or scrapping the entire IPC or CRPC. Am I right? हाँ जी विश्व, वो चीज आई थिंक आपको, आई होप दैट इज क्लियर टू यू नाउ. एंड हितकांक्षी, यस, moreover our population is highly volatile due to lack of, yes, certainly you can say that our population, you can say that, you know, there are certain there are certain elements not just in India, but I will add one point here कि कंट्री के बाहर बहुत सारे ऐसे एलिमेंट्स हैं, बहुत सारे ऐसे सेक्शंस हैं in the international community also outside of India who are supporting such volatile elements, such anti-national elements. They are sponsored by them, they are promoted by them, they are given direct, indirect financial support, and we have to take into consideration if there are any such links, and for that we have to use such laws. We cannot just sit tight-lipped and watch certain situations unfold under our nose. There are elements in the world which are wanting to destroy the democratically elected governments of democracies. हमने ये चीज और भी कई जगह देखी है. जस्ट टू ड्रॉ अ पैरेलल, मैं एक एग्जांपल कोट कर देता हूं. म्यांमार में जो डेवलपमेंट्स हुई हैं, क्या लगता है कि सिर्फ म्यांमार के ही इंटरनल मैटर है वो? The reports have suggested that the Russians were indirectly, covertly, they were supporting or they were aiding the army in Myanmar to uproot the elected government. If certain sections in the international arena they are supporting or they are giving incitement to such things, then certainly you have to be on your guard. You have to take into consideration all those elements and take a strict action. हाँ जी ठीक है. Yes, certainly also China. बिल्कुल. वो देखो अब the element, see, everybody caters to their own interest, and as far as our interest is concerned, we will use this law at any point of time when we will see that the sovereignty and the security and integrity of our country is at stake, and that is what the constitution and the courts of the country, be it the top court, that is the Supreme Court, also allows the executive to do so. ठीक है, ये चीज क्लियर है. Okay. Now, these were the arguments which can be listed for the section or in support of it. Now, arguments which can be cited against, that is successive governments. अब इसमें देखो प्रेजेंट डिस्पेंसेशन जो है, सिर्फ उसी को आप कटघरे में खड़ा नहीं कर सकते. Even the previous governments, when we discussed the Kedarnath Singh case, it was not the current dispensations or political parties which were in power back then in the day in 1960s, 1970s. It was the now opposition which was the ruling party, which was sitting in the government. So all these are, you can say, they are ऑलमोस्ट, जिसको कहते हैं ना कि वो सभी थाली के एक ही बैंगन है, या जिसको कैसे कहते हैं, मतलब ऑल दे आर ऑल ऑफ वन शेड ऑफ वन ह्यू ओनली. दैट इज दे हैव यूज्ड इट टू देयर एडवांटेज आल्सो. अपार्ट फ्रॉम ऑल दीज पॉजिटिव्स, successive governments, they have used sedition to suppress journalists, students, also you can quote intellectuals, etc., whoever was critical of the government. ठीक है, ये आप कह सकते हो कि इन सभी सेक्शंस को सोसाइटी के, चाहे वो नागरिक हो, चाहे वो स्टूडेंट्स हो, चाहे वो इंटेलेक्चुअल्स हो, चाहे वो पत्रकार हो, इन सभी को किसी ना किसी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे सक्सेसिव गवर्नमेंट्स ने साइलेंस करने के लिए दे हैव यूज्ड आर्टिकल 120, दे हैव यूज्ड दिस सेक्शन टू साइलेंस द क्रिटिक्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. Another point which you can say that now it is purely used to crush political dissent, ठीक है, or instill and intimidate the people. So another constraint is that to persecute any political dissent. I will, without naming, just give an example also. When a certain member in the state of West Bengal is a part of the ruling party, then the central government goes on to slapping all the charges against them. But as soon as that particular member joins the party in the central government, then all these charges are removed, or you can say that that person is completely absolved of all the charges. That means that you are using such provisions to persecute political dissent or the parties which, or the political lineages which are not aligned with you. Certainly we can say that, yes, certainly we can say that opposition party members, yes, I'll, without naming, I'll refrain myself from naming any particular individual or any particular party, but you are intelligent people, you can just gauge by it the example which I cited. So this is another argument which can be cited as going against that particular sedition or 124A. Also it is used to instill fear and intimidate any डिसेंटर, या आप कह सकते हो कि ये एक इनडायरेक्ट मैसेज होता है. Whenever you are catching a big fish or you are trapping somebody who is high enough in the society, then you are sending a message to the people at large, you are instilling fear and intimidating them that any dissenter or any dissent shall be treated in a similar manner with a very high hand. ठीक है, इससे होगा ये, the state tries to communicate very directly to the people that look, this is an example for you to understand that if you are doing such acts, then this is how you will be treated. In another sense, you can say that to instill the fear in them. So then the misuse of the law is also a threat to the nation. Yes, certainly you can say that for the nation as a whole, it is not good that if the sitting executive is misusing the law to aid its own political fortunes or to gain mileage out of it, that certainly we can say that. Hitkankshi, as far as sedition and hate speech is concerned, hate speech just stops one step short of qualifying as an act of, you can say, sedition. In sedition, we are clearly saying that the government is, the speech is trying to, or the whatever the act is, it is trying to uproot the elected government. Hate speech you can think of as 1 degree less of it, but then also I will say that you cannot clearly watertight, you cannot do clear watertight separation. Fine, प्लीज एक्सप्लेन थर्ड पॉइंट अगेन. देखो थर्ड पॉइंट ये है कि अगर किसी इंडिविजुअल को आप सेडिशन में बुक कर रहे हो, तो then what is the message that you are indirectly sending out to the people at large, that you are instilling a sense of fear in them that look, ये इस व्यक्ति ने ऐसा किया था तो इसको हमने उठा के सेडिशन स्लैप करके we have sent him to jail. Now this is the same message which is for you also to very clearly get it into your head that similar will be your fate also. ठीक है, तो उससे क्या, you are instilling fear in that person, you are communicating that it will be intimidated. ठीक है. Yes, same things done in North Korea. Certainly we cannot compare with North Korea, they are not a democracy, but fine. रविंदर देखो जो सेकंड पॉइंट है, the second point here says that this particular sedition law has been used as a constraint for political dissent, that is to persecute any political dissent which is existing, which does not aligns with your ideology or the ideology of the people who are sitting in power right now. That is the simple meaning of the second point here. ठीक है, चलो जो अगला पॉइंट है वो आप लिख सकते हो that India is a signatory to the India has ratified the International Convention of or International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The International Covenant on CPR, that is Civil and Political Rights. Ratified in the year 1979. So if you have ratified the International Covenant on CPR or the Civil and Political Rights, then you have internationally committed that you will protect the civil rights and the political rights of your citizens, meaning that you will not execute laws such as the draconian sedition law just to silence your critics or silence your dissenters. ठीक है, मतलब कि आप जो है यू आर बाउंड इंटरनेशनली, यू हैव मेड अ कमिटमेंट। देखो इसका सीधा सीधा यहाँ पे रैमिफिकेशन बता देता हूं या इसका असर बता देता हूं, सिर्फ इतना होता है, ये इन्फोर्स कभी नहीं होते। अगर प्रैक्टिकली बात करोगे तो ये इन्फोर्स कभी नहीं होते, सिर्फ एक कमिटमेंट होती है जो एक कंट्री दुनिया को दिखाने के लिए करता है कि हाँ ये कमिटमेंट हम अपनी तरफ से रखते हैं ऑन द वर्ल्ड स्टेज। लेकिन इसका एक फर्क ये कह सकते हो पड़ता है जो डेफिनेटली कि आपकी स्टैंडिंग क्या है वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर में। वेदर इट इज सेड ना, आर यू अ मैन ऑफ योर वर्ड्स? We generally in normal day-to-day life also say that he is a man of his words, fine, or she is a woman of her words, meaning thereby you have a certain credibility with respect to whatever you say or whatever you commit to, you are going to abide by it, you are going to stick by it, and you will not just go back on your words or eat your words. So that is what I'm trying to convey to you here, that if we have committed something on the international domain, in the international arena, then we are bound or we must try to fulfill those commitments. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप जो है बोलो कि नहीं ठीक है अब तो हम कुछ भी करेंगे क्योंकि हमारी मेजॉरिटी है या ब्रूट मेजॉरिटी, हमारे पास नंबर्स हैं, ऐसा नहीं है। इट विल रिफ्लेक्ट पुअरली ऑन योर स्टैंडिंग इन द इंटरनेशनल डोमेन। यस एग्जैक्टली, इंडेक्सेस में भी, रेटिंग्स में उससे भी फर्क पड़ता है, आपकी क्या स्टैंडिंग है with respect to the human rights, with respect to the rights of your citizens, the civil rights, the political rights. It certainly marks a badge on the indexes which are also released by various organizations. ठीक है, तो this is the conclusion for this sedition law. These are the arguments which you can write if you are writing an answer which जिसकी टोन अगर ऐसी है कि which demands you to reflect in a positive way, or if you want to reflect it in a negative way, then certainly you can quote the negatives of it. ठीक है, एक चीज इसमें और ऐड कर सकते हो कि इसमें एक एलिमेंट ऑफ, यहां पे आई जस्ट फ्लिप द स्लाइड, जो अगेंस्ट थी, इसमें एक पांचवा पॉइंट ऐड कर सकते हो, दैट इंटरप्रिटेशन इज वेरी सब्जेक्टिव। जो इंटरप्रिटेशन है टर्म्स की, दैट इज वेग एंड सब्जेक्टिव। मीनिंग दैट इट इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन द whims एंड फैंसीज ऑफ द investigative or investigating officers, कि वो किस तरीके से जो है इंटरप्रेट करते हैं इन टर्म्स को, दैट ऑल्सो प्लेज अ रोल वेदर यू विल बी स्लैप्ड विद सेक्शन 124 और द सेडिशन लॉ। So that interpretation can be said to be subjective, it can said to be that it is vague, and one thing which you can suggest in your answer is that the legislation can be implemented or the legislation can further be, you know, amended for the good, that the parliament or the legislative bodies in the country, they might more specifically identify with what constitutes as the meaning and definition of these terms. जैसे डिसअफेक्शन है या डिसलॉयल्टी है, चलो डिसलॉयल्टी फिर आप एक कह सकते हो कि थोड़ा पिन पॉइंटेड है, बट डिसअफेक्शन, certain these terms are subject to various interpretations by the different people, that is they are vague and subjective. Fine, so this is another point which you can add in interpretation, which you can add in the negatives against the law. हाँ जी, इसका स्नैपशॉट ले, अगर नहीं लिया तो प्लीज ले लो. We are moving to the sixth topic, that is road accidents in India, and along with that the case study or the role model which Tamil Nadu has emerged with respect to catering to the safety of its citizens in road accidents. Yes, fifth topic, certainly. हाँ जी, इसका स्नैपशॉट ले लिया आप लोगों ने. I'll turn to the next slide. Okay, great. So this has been noted. Meenakshi, we are just going to conclude it. Please bear with me for another 20-25 odd minutes. ठीक है, हम पांचवा टॉपिक और इसके साथ ही एक केस स्टडी, दैट इज द सिक्स टॉपिक, विल जस्ट सी एंड देन विल कंक्लूड द क्लास. एक फ्लो में निकल जाए तो इट इज बेटर. सो रोड एक्सीडेंट्स इन इंडिया. ठीक है, चलो आप लोग तो वैसे भी नोट कर रहे हो. इट इज मी हु इज स्पीकिंग हियर कॉन्स्टेंटली, सो I hope it will be better that we just finish it in one go only. So road accident scenario has been observed by the union minister, that with respect to the people being who are losing their lives and the damage which the road accidents are causing, the situation is alarming. And even more, he has gone on to say that it is even more worse than the COVID-19 pandemic. The situation which was caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, उससे भी ज्यादा बुरी स्थिति है अगर हम रोड एक्सीडेंट्स की बात करते हैं तो. ठीक है, सो द सिचुएशन इज एन अलार्मिंग सिचुएशन, दैट इज an alarming situation even worse than due to the one caused by COVID pandemic. That is the accident scenario, the road accidents in India, which has been noted that more than 1.5 lakh people lose their life every year. ठीक है, due to road accidents. So this is the backdrop, or you can say this is the context in which we are discussing this particular topic. So we'll discuss the key observations. This is the backdrop. Please take a snapshot. Then we'll move कि क्या particular observations हैं जो कि इस road accident topic के regarding which have been made. हाँ जी, स्नैपशॉट ले लिया. आई होप आप लोगों ने नोट कर लिया है. सो द की ऑब्जर्वेशंस which was made by the Minister of Road Transport and Highways with respect to the road accident scenario is that 70% of fatalities is in the working age group. देखो सिर्फ ह्यूमन लाइफ का लॉस नहीं है, इट इज द लॉस ऑफ ह्यूमन कैपिटल ऑल्सो, दैट इज योर 15 to 45 years ऑफ पीपल. हाँ जी, कंफर्म कर दो, पिछली स्लाइड का स्नैपशॉट ले लिया था, नोट कर लिया था ना. वी विल जस्ट मूव अहेड विद द की ऑब्जर्वेशंस देन. जो 18 से 45 साल के लोग हैं, दैट इज 18 to 45 years old, which constitutes your main working age group. Okay, great to see that you all people are alive and not dead after having an exhaustive class. ठीक है, मैं बोल रहा हूं कॉन्स्टेंटली, तो इसलिए इट इज मी हु शुड गेट टायर्ड एंड नॉट यू आर एनर्जेटिक पीपल. ओके, तो 70% जो फेटलिटीज हैं, द ऑब्जर्वेशन बाय द मिनिस्टर ऑफ रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड हाईवे सेज दैट they are in the working age group, which means that it is a huge economic loss also. We will take into look the exact figures with respect to the economic loss, but this certainly is a point. Year, that is 1 year per annum, more than 1.5 lakh people die. Yes, it certainly impacts our GDP also. We will take a look. Dhruv, don't worry, we'll have that data also. Detailed data we'll have. Dhruv, just wait for a couple of minutes. So जो वर्किंग एज पॉपुलेशन है, पहली ऑब्जर्वेशन ये कहती है. दूसरी ऑब्जर्वेशन ये कहती है दैट इंडिया infamously is at the first position with respect to total fatalities that happen because of the road accidents. ठीक है, across the world also अगर we compare the data, then in road accidents globally we are ahead of USA and China. Total fatalities also, and in the number of road accidents we are ahead of USA and China. ठीक है, this is another stark observation which tells that it is Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, the MORTH. ठीक है, चलो, जो सेकंड ऑब्जर्वेशन है वो ये कहती है. इसके अलावा जो है, if we divide now the human loss, then with respect to the lives which are lost in road accidents, that is 415 fatalities per day. 400 से ज्यादा लोग अपनी जान गंवा रहे हैं एक दिन में, जिसका मतलब है कि इट इज अ ह्यूज नंबर which is lost every day. And if we take a look at per annum, then it is more than 1.5 lakh deaths per year. हाँ जी, there was a doubt by somebody, तो ये वही say that this is the data here, that you have more than 1.5 lakh people losing their lives annually due to road accidents, and apart from that, more than 3.5 lakh are crippled, that is, they become disabled. So the people who are always since morning. Okay, I take that point into consideration. We'll just conclude it. Okay, थोड़ी देर तो आप लोग पढ़ सकते हो, आई एम श्योर ऑफ दैट. Fine. So this is the stark reality with respect to the road accident scenario in a country. See, 3.5 lakh people every year, if they are becoming crippled or disabled, then it is a huge loss. And apart from that, if you take into consideration the economic loss, which is associated due to these road accidents, then it is more than 3% of your GDP, precisely 3.14% of GDP loss. ठीक है, इतना लॉस है जो एसोसिएटेड है इकोनॉमिक फ्रंट पे, एंड दिस इज ऑन द human lives which are lost because of these road accidents which take place in the country, which we should certainly contain, which we should certainly try and reduce, क्योंकि ये ऐसे losses हैं जिसको हम reduce कर सकते हैं. और इसमें जो ये डेटा जो है, इसमें से more than 70%, precisely 78% रोड एक्सीडेंट डेथ्स जो हैं, 78% road accident deaths, they take place with the people who are riding two-wheelers, who are bicyclists or who are riding a cycle, and who are pedestrians. How GDP is affected? प्रजापति देखो, अगर वर्किंग एज पॉपुलेशन आपकी जो है उसकी जान जा रही है, तो इट विल अफेक्ट द इकोनॉमी ऑफ दैट हाउस. If a certain member who is in the age group of 18 to 45 years old, who is earning for a family, and his or her life is lost in a particular road accident, then it is impacting not just that house also, but collectively. Just imagine so many people losing their lives in this particular age group, who are contributing through their activities in the economy. Then it is going to impact the GDP also. वो जो तबका समाज का, जो ये वर्किंग एज पॉपुलेशन इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज में एंगेज थी, अगर उनकी जान जा रही है, तो उसका इंपैक्ट यहां भी देखने को मिलेगा. ठीक है, ओके, ग्रेट. So these are the pertinent or the key observations with respect to the road accident scenario. Now we'll quickly take a look at the case study or the solutions. I'll not make it more tiring for you, Konika. Don't worry, just bear with me for a couple of more minutes. इसका स्नैपशॉट आई होप आप लोगों ने ले लिया है. नाउ द तमिलनाडु मॉडल और द सॉल्यूशन. Tamil Nadu model, which can be a case study for whole of the country as a solution to the lives which we are losing in the road accidents. ठीक है. So what Tamil Nadu did and how it effectively contained, we will discuss it. Tamil Nadu ne, by as much as more than 50%, they reduced their fatalities in the road accident. And how did they do so? We will discuss that. So Tamil Nadu, basically it went in for joint efforts of various stakeholders तो तमिलनाडु ने क्या किया कि एक होलिस्टिक अप्रोच फॉलो करी कि बहुत सारे अलग अलग डिपार्टमेंट्स जिनका सहयोग ले सकते हैं, या जो इसमें स्टेक होल्डर हैं विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द सिनारियो ऑफ रोड एक्सीडेंट्स व्हिच वाज हैपनिंग इन दिस स्टेट आल्सो. दे went in for collaborative efforts and included all these departments, that is joint effort of critical stakeholders or various stakeholders which are critical for cutting down the number of accidents. So that is, they involved the police department, the health department, then the transport department, police department for enforcing the rules, then the health department to provide for critical emergency trauma services, ताकि अगर कोई मिसहैप होता है तो इमीडिएटली यू कैन जस्ट रश इन द हेल्थ सर्विसेज, द एम्बुलेंसेज देयर, ठीक है। फिर ट्रांसपोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट को फॉर विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द फिटनेस ऑफ द व्हीकल्स विच आर प्लाइंग ऑन द रोड, इसकी सर्टिफिकेशन के लिए, एंड ऑल्सो द इशुएंस और the issuance of licenses. It should be done in a appropriate manner. Apart from the transport department, the highways department was also asked to rope in that is the state highways department, जिसको कहा गया कि आप जो है you will look that the road infrastructure is maintained properly. देखो बहुत सारे जंक्शंस ऐसे होते हैं जहां पे अगर थोड़ी सी ट्विकिंग की जाए या अगर वहां पे राउंड अबाउट्स बना दिए जाएं तो आप अवॉइड कर सकते हो उन जंक्शंस पे रोड एक्सीडेंट्स को। दिस इज वेयर द रोल ऑफ द हाईवेज डिपार्टमेंट कम्स इन, दैट यू कैन इंप्रूव द कंडीशंस ऑफ द रोड। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, एट द क्रिटिकल जंक्चर्स और जंक्शंस यू कैन से, where you witness high number of road accidents, you can have roundabouts there, or at any suitable place you can also go in for building a flyover. Roundabouts, flyovers, these can be a better substitute instead of the junction where you have a crossing and not a roundabout. यहाँ पे एक्सीडेंट का चांस जो है वो ज्यादा है with respect to if you have a roundabout there at that particular junction or juncture, ठीक है। तो what Tamil Nadu did was that they collaborated all these departments and they asked them to have better interdepartmental coordination also। मतलब ये कि अगर कहीं पे रोड जो है किसी जंक्शन पे ज्यादा एक्सीडेंट्स हैं तो वहां पे आइडेंटिफाई उसको करके हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट को कह सकता है, ट्रांसपोर्ट और हाईवेज डिपार्टमेंट, दैट यू मस्ट पोजीशन योर एम्बुलेंसेज इन दीज पर्टिकुलर एरियाज ऑफ द स्टेट, or for that matter if we break it down to a city, then with respect to that city you can place your ambulances in near vicinity of these junctions where high number of accidents take place and you can contain the fatalities, ठीक है। this is what I'm trying to say, that when you are coordinating, you are having interdepartmental coordination. See, with respect to your governance paper also, this interdepartmental coordination is a very important subtopic, that the individual departments, if they are, सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स अगर मान लो अलग अलग डायरेक्शन में काम कर रहे हैं तो कोई कोलैबोरेशन नहीं हो सकती, कोई आपको रिजल्ट देखने को नहीं मिलेगा। इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट कि सभी डिपार्टमेंट्स आपस में मिलके कोऑर्डिनेट करके एक इंटीग्रेटेड फैशन में काम करें, तभी यू विल बी एबल टू हैव द डिजायर्ड पॉजिटिव रिजल्ट्स। This is what Tamil Nadu displayed here. And apart from that, they also worked in an integrated fashion. What Tamil Nadu did was, they divided their roads in a stretch of 2 kilometers each. Into 2 kilometer stretch. And by dividing the roads in a stretch of 2 kilometers, they started studying that what are the junctions where accidents are happening the most. ठीक है, ये 2 किलोमीटर के जो ग्रिड्स थे, या आप 2 किलोमीटर के स्ट्रेच कह सकते हो या फिर इसको ग्रिड कह सकते हो. They mapped those regions, that is mapping accident hotspots. Mapping the accident hotspots so that they can be better contained, the accidents can be contained, and collect data on road accidents. ये सब करके इन्होंने किया क्या? They created a geographical information system with respect to this mapping of the accident hotspots in the state and collecting data on road accidents. After that, they made a TNGIS, that is your Tamil Nadu Geographical Information System. जिसमें ये सारा डेटा इन्होंने फीड किया. ठीक है, दिस ज्योग्राफिकल इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम वाज enabled in such a way that it will have all the data with respect to the mapping of the accident hotspots and the data on road accidents, जिसको इन्होंने इस सारे डेटा को फीड किया अपने ज्योग्राफिकल इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम में, जिससे क्या मदद मिली? दैट they were able to pinpointedly look for the areas जहां पे इंप्रूवमेंट की जरूरत है. ठीक है, and because of this they were able to reduce the average response time. इस डेटा एनालिटिक्स की वजह से they were able to reduce the average response time. क्यों? जब एक्सीडेंट हो कहीं पे, अगर if there is an accident which has taken place, then the minimum or the average response time, it was improved by 13 minutes in the cities. Cities के रिस्पेक्ट में they improved it by 13 minutes by doing all these steps, and 17 minutes in rural areas. So this is how Tamil Nadu went ahead by reducing the accidents. इसके अलावा जो है ये सब चीजें करने से what happened was that overall fatality deaths, Tamil Nadu, it reduced the deaths by 54% in the state. More than 50% की अगर आप रिडक्शन अचीव कर रहे हो तो what can be better than that? And accidents, reduce accidents by 38%. ये सारी चीजें जो हमने डिस्कस करी, ये सभी स्टेप्स तमिलनाडु ने जो किए, उसका फायदा ये मिला कि एक तो एवरेज रिस्पांस टाइम, दे वर एबल टू रिड्यूस देयर एवरेज रिस्पांस टाइम, कि अगर कोई एक्सीडेंट अकर कर भी जाता है तो आप कितनी जल्दी रिस्पॉन्ड करते हो. और उसका सीधे सीधे फर्क इस चीज पे पड़ता है दैट वेदर यू विल बी एबल टू सेव द लाइफ ऑफ दैट पर्सन और नॉट. And this is the data here which speaks for itself, that Tamil Nadu was able to reduce their deaths by 54% and accidents by 38%. And for this, the Supreme Court appointed committee under Justice K.S. Radhakrishnan. Justice K.S. Radhakrishnan committee on road safety. This committee was appointed by the Supreme Court in 2018-19 on road safety, appointed by the Supreme Court. They also applauded the achievement which Tamil Nadu has made, and they suggested that it can be a model for the country to look and apply in their own states also. This was a 3-member committee. ठीक है, this committee, it applauded the achievements which Tamil Nadu here achieved, क्योंकि numbers जो हैं वो सामने सामने दिखा रहे हैं. ये TN ने नहीं है, ये रिपोर्ट आने के बाद आई है. Sure, I'll flip the previous slide. So this was the case study or the solution, the joint efforts. Then next, this was the 2-kilometer stretches or the grids. नाजिया 13 मिनट्स एंड 17 मिनट्स से उन्होंने अपना रिस्पॉन्स टाइम जो है वो रिड्यूस किया कि अगर कोई एक्सीडेंट अकर हुआ है तो इमरजेंसी सर्विसेज पहुंचाने में आपको कितना समय लगता है. दैट एवरेज रिस्पॉन्स टाइम वाज रिड्यूस्ड बाय 13 and 17 मिनट्स फॉर सिटीज एंड रूरल एरियाज रिस्पेक्टिवली. फाइन. तमिलनाडु ने ये स्टेप्स जो हैं, दे हैव बीन टेकिंग दीज स्टेप्स फॉर द पास्ट couple of years when they have improved on all these fronts. ठीक है, ये वाला स्लाइड हो गया, and this is the last slide. That is, they were able to reduce deaths also, and they were able to reduce accidents also. हाँ जी, that is the conclusion for this topic. This is where we'll call it a day. इसमें कोई डाउट है तो मुझे आप बता दो अभी, or else we'll end the class here. And I really appreciate all your people's energy and for thriving with me until this point. I really appreciate that. Sure, I'll show the first slide also. So this is where we had begun with the road accidents in India, and this was the key observations. Then this was the Tamil Nadu model which was discussed. हाँ जी, अब मुझे बता दो कोई डाउट तो नहीं है ना, ताकि ये ना हो कि हम सेशन एंड कर दें और उसके बाद किसी का कोई डाउट बच जाए. चलो ठीक है, then I hope that it is clear to everybody and we will call it a day here. Thank you so much. I hope you were able to incorporate these things for your preparation and it added value to your preparation. Fine. Thank you so much, and that is all for today. Thank you.